This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Welcome to Winnipeg Sports Talk, gang. One final time after a Winnipeg Jet game for the 25-26 season. That's all she wrote. Pretty disappointing end to the year. The Jets fall 6-1 to the San Jose Sharks last night in front of a very full, very energetic crowd for the majority of the game. Unfortunately, the Jets didn't have that same level of energy. Although, as many of us have said, the wins, the losses, like winning that game last night wasn't necessarily that important. You probably don't like to get smoked by a young, exciting team like the San Jose Sharks, but we said to many folks afterwards, on to the next season and on to the off season, which could be a very crucial one for the Winnipeg Jets. We've got lots to get to on today's show. Exit interviews are being conducted right now as we speak down at Canada Life Center. We've already heard from Jonathan Toews. We'll have some of that for you a little later on, as well as Cole Perfetti, Gabriel Vilardi as well. Mark Scheifele and Dylan DeMello announced today that they will be representing Canada at the World Championships. And speaking of the World Championships, our pal Kevin Sawyer will be on his way, along with Dan Robertson, to those World Championships to call games for TSN. Kevin's going to join us a little later on. Just right off the top of the show, want to extend our thoughts to Dan, who, of course, was not doing the game last night with Kevin. It was our pal Dustin Nielsen who jumped in the booth to fill the big shoes of Dan Robertson. He's dealing with a family matter. His mom's not well, and Dan had to go back to the Maritimes. So sending our thoughts to Dan and his family and his mother right now during a tough time. Certainly missed him last night, but Dusty, as he always does a great job filling in and had the call last night. We'll hook up with Kevin coming up in a bit. We'll also talk to Brandon Rewucki as the season comes to an end. We'll probably hook up with Connor as well, just to get a bit of a pulse on what's happening down at Canada Life Center as well as the day continues, and hear from some of the Winnipeg Jets. A little later on today, Pat and Jake are going to join us together before we do marbles, and we're going to go into our favorite series picks for the playoffs, as well as our favorite cup picks. And we'll get Remis to give his thoughts on those as well. And, of course, we'll finish it up with some marbles at the end of the program and announce our winner of the Coolbet Fight Night contest. Thanks to everyone that entered. We'll have that for you a little bit later on the program as well. Listen, just before we bring Michael Remis in and get to it all, do want to thank our sponsors that make the show happen each and every day. Of course, our partners at Coolbet Canada, and love to welcome and let you know that the Tri-Hospital Lottery is now on and underway. It's the biggest grand prize ever. We'll tell you about the details a little later on in the program, but you can check that out right now at tryhospitaldream.com and get your tickets now. Also want to thank Princess Auto, Chud's Power Sports, Clean Line, Plumbing, Heating, and Electrical, Manitoba Building Trades and the Manitoba Federation of Labor, Uptown Alley, Rowley's Transfer, St. Vital Dental Center, pal Dr. Terry and the gang out in St. V, Manitoba Battery, Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge, Breezy Bend, Royal Sports, Boston Pizza, Little Brown Jug, and, of course, a why not question of the day for Not Autocorp at Waverly and McGillivray. Speaking of Manitoba Battery, though, do want to shout them out. We always get so much great feedback from Manitoba Battery customers that have heard about them from Winnipeg Sports Talk. Just got an email from my pal Pitt Turenne. They are getting ready to get out and get things going at Aikens Lake, and they bought a ton of batteries for the upcoming summer. And I got an email just saying, thanks for the heads up on Manitoba Battery. They got an amazing price. They couldn't believe the price, and they delivered all of them too. So great service. Shout out to Donnie and the gang at Manitoba Battery. Let's get to it. Michael Remis, one more time after a Jet game this season. We can now put 25-26 in the rear view and move on to the offseason. How are you?
Yeah, well, I'm happy this season's done. You know, once they were eliminated from the playoffs, the performance in the last couple games, well, I mean, how many of these can you sit through these beatdowns? And shout out to the fans who showed up on Saturday and Fan Appreciation Day. You'd have liked to seen, you want to go and see a win, see a nice performance. At least you saw, Macklin Celebrini show last night and setting their franchise record for points, passing Joe Thornton. But I'm looking
Incredible.
I'm looking forward to the playoffs starting and turning the page on this season for the Jets, but also, looking ahead to the Bombers season and everything that comes with the summer. But I'm doing okay here.
Well, speaking of that, but we're going to spend pretty much the entire show talking Jets, but let's start off on a real positive note. And not surprisingly, it is not a Jets topic. It is a Bomber topic. But the news late yesterday evening, I should say, about an hour before the game, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers announced that Taylor Elgersma, the quarterback the Bombers picked in last year's draft, Heck Crichton winner, has signed with the Winnipeg Football Club. So, Remo, the Elgersma drama, or saga, if you will, that has really stretched basically a full year, is finally over. He will be a Bomber this year. And to me, this is just such awesome news. I know it was frustrating for Kyle Walters with how long it took to get this done. And it certainly sounded like there was a lot of frustration. Frustration for Elgersma not getting the papers to be able to play in the UFL. Former Alabama and Bengals quarterback A.J. McCarron, that's the coach of the Birmingham team, very frustrated that they weren't able to get him able to play. I don't know, and we'll find out more, I'd imagine, when we hear from Elgersma how this all shook out. I understood him wanting to play there to maybe get some more 4-down tape coming from 3-down football in Canada if he was really set on getting an NFL opportunity, but he'd been sitting around for a year. He had not really played. It's time to start his professional career, and that is going to happen in Winnipeg. And the best part about this, and we kind of hoped that maybe this would happen last year, but with Zach Collaros signed, Zach Collaros is the QB1. With the championships, the incredible experience he has in the Canadian Football League, I just think this is a perfect situation to bring in a young quarterback, to be in that QB room for this year with Zach, presumably to get some playing time at some point, depending on scenarios and situations and obviously injuries, and set him up for success. I think there's so much to be gained by Elgersma, even if he doesn't play a lot, practicing and being in that room with Zach Collaros to hopefully set up him for success as potentially the next one behind Zach Collaros as the first-string quarterback for the Bombers.
I was very excited to hear that news yesterday, and the Bombers QB room got all very interesting now with Elgersma and Bryce Perkins, who was the UFL MVP last year and spent some time with the LA Rams of the NFL. So interested to see how this plays out, but Elgersma, a very promising prospect, was drafted last year in the second round of the CFL draft. We've kind of been talking about him for a while. The book is closed there, and now the countdown is on to rookie camp. So that was the big news before the game yesterday.
Yeah, no doubt. So anyways, we'll really focus in on this, hopefully get him on the show in the next week or so. But we did have some good news for Winnipeg and Manitoba sports fans heading into last night. Not a lot of good news at the game last night. Now listen, I'm not going to sit here and bitch about a loss in Game 82, considering the end result of that was the Jets maintaining their spot in what we really care about right now, and that is the May 5th draft lottery. The Jets finished the season in the 7th position going in. I mean, if everything stayed the same and the top two teams won the draft lottery, the Jets will pick 7th in a draft where there is at least 7 really good top prospects. You would have loved to have seen a little bit more fight from the club. I mean, listen, the win and the loss is not really a big deal. And to be honest, a regulation win probably would have had a few people bent out of shape that they went from 7th to 8th in the draft order. So I can live with all of that. Loved Cole Koepke getting the team out to a 1-0 lead, and the building had a good vibe. People were eating their hot dogs, and the kids were all hopped up on the free pop from the game. They were giving stuff out. They didn't have a lot after that. And you saw, and we'll talk about this with Kevin coming up, you saw a young, exciting, fun San Jose Sharks team make the most of that last game of the season. Now, did it hurt their draft pick? Yes, none of those guys care. And to be honest, I don't think the Jet players really care either. But that's a team in San Jose that is on the rise, has an incredibly bright future. The team in Winnipeg, really came in on fumes at the end after a very, very disappointing season. I think this offseason is needed for everybody right now. But as we'll be talking about extensively today, throughout the weeks to come, heading into the draft and free agency, there is a lot of work to do for management on this roster to get them back to, never mind being a cup contender, to being a team that's participating in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Because, you look at the Central Division ring, Colorado ain't going anywhere. Dallas and Minnesota are beasts. Utah has arrived. And then on the other side of things, the Ducks may be ahead of schedule, made the playoffs. And that San Jose team that we just saw last night, I'm not sure that they'll be on the outside looking in for very long with the amount of young talent that they have right now. So it is a long list for Kevin Sawyer and management to do for the offseason. And maybe most importantly, right now, as we've talked about for the last couple of weeks, the minute that final buzzer ended last night, it is on to the evaluation of the organization at every level to see what needs to change to avoid another incredibly disappointing season as we just experienced.
Yeah, so disappointing. Has the second fewest points by a Winnipeg Jets team in 2.0 history. Blew me away that this team...
Like less than the GST year?
Yes, it blew me away, Hassler, that this team, which had Mark Scheifele with a franchise record points, has last year's Hart Trophy winner, Connor Hellebuyck. Josh Morrissey was top 3 or 4 in Norris voting last year. Had all these great top players, 82 points. That is less than the 2011-12 Jets that had 84 points, which was led by Blake Wheeler, Andrew Ladd, Brian Little. Now, it's all relative. I think scoring, but you didn't have guys then scoring over 100 points, but it just speaks to, the wide range here of top-end talent and scoring depth. And you look at that San Jose team last night, you see Michael Remis, skate down the wing and score. San Jose went 3-0 against the Jets this year, and how they have all these young, fast players, and the Jets really didn't have that, and they went in on veterans and really didn't try to pivot until it was too late, and they had a nice showing there after the Olympic break, but ultimately not enough, and that 11-game losing streak where they pretty much kept the lineup the whole time. They lost every game by a goal. They just weren't good enough to get it done, and now they're not in the playoffs, and I think a lot of questions, which we've been asking for a while, will continue throughout the offseason. I don't know. We'll have to see where the Jets go from here. I'm looking forward to hearing from the GM and head coach on Monday.
Yeah, no, listen, that will be heavily dissected, I'm sure, in media circles once Chevy and Arneal speak coming up today. Just on that is just so incredible. I mean, the Jets finish at NHL 500. 35, and what did it ended up being? 35, and 12. 82 points in 82 games, which again, being 500 in the NHL, where does that get you? That gets you in and around the 7th pick in the draft. But to think that this is the second worst season in Jets 2.0 history by points is incredible. Like, I just pulled up the 2011-12 team.
It's
Blake
terrible.
Blake Wheeler led the team with 64 points. Evander Kane scored 30 and had 57 points. Big Buff had 53. Andrew Ladd had 50. Kyle Wellwood had 47. I mean, it's so funny we think about second-line center in the position. Like, if you had a Kyle Wellwood type that could come in and give you 47 points in that position, what difference would that have made for the Jets? Brian Little that year, 46 points, but with 24 goals. The memories. But it's hard to believe that team with that group of players coming over from Atlanta actually finished ahead. And that kind of just puts into perspective the disappointment. Never mind the starting point of this team coming in, thinking they had just a few tweaks to make to go much further in the playoffs after being the best team in the regular season a year ago.
Yeah, President's Trophy winner to the second worst team in franchise history. What an incredible drop-off. And I tweeted that out. Like they said on the broadcast that it was second worst. The only other worst team was 15-16, where they lucked into the second overall pick in the lottery. But are the Jets starting at square one like they were when they first moved here? Like when you think about how far they have to go, it's interesting. And I look at some of the signings they made, like Pearson and Nyquist, how they didn't work out. It reminds me of when they signed like Ole Jokinen and Alexei Ponikarovsky and guys like Kyle Wellwood. Wellwood worked out pretty well for what was a middling team, but it did not work out this year. And the organization is going to have to come up with a different strategy for this year's offseason because it did not work out in spectacular fashion. And again, I think it took them too long to move off of some of the veteran players this year, and they played pretty well, after the Olympic break. But again, it was not enough good and too much bad.
Yeah, I mean, pretty well compared to certainly what happened earlier in the season. But I mean, the 11-game losing streak. I mean, really the period from the 1st of November when the team went on that road trip out to California to mid to late January, when they broke that streak and went on the 4-game winning streak, was, I mean, a period that completely deep-sixed their season. And there were obvious problems. The team did not address them quickly enough. Some will say that they didn't address them at all. And here we are. That being said, last night was game 82. I'll remember this last night's game for probably 3 things that kind of stand out. First of all, great atmosphere and crowd. I mean, I thought the organization did a great job with the cards that everybody got in and got prizes and a lot of hot dogs. I did win a hot dog. It was a very good hot dog. Appreciated that. But there were, I mean, obviously what happened on the ice, I mean, Celebrini setting the Sharks record for points was just phenomenal. And you hope maybe with a little luck in this draft lottery coming up on May 5th that the Jets might get a player. I'm not suggesting that anyone in this draft is going to be as franchise-changing as Macklin Celebrini, but you look at Will Smith and Michael Misa, who was last year. I mean, that's the core of their team. A really high-end, talented young player would be amazing to bring into to the crowd. But Reem, last night, and I've tweeted this out, my lasting memory of the game last night is going to be a few things. First of all, the San Jose Sharks are like the Backstreet Boys of the NHL. I can never remember as many young women surrounding the visitors during warm-up. I mean, it was kind of like Beatlemania back in the day. And I get it. They're young. They're exciting. And hey, great for the game. I don't think that's going anywhere anytime soon. So that was beforehand. Obviously, the third period wave in game 82, down 6-1, I think sort of said it all. Shout out to the kids that worked so hard to get it going. They would not say no. And again, in a lost season at that point, let the fans have some fun. They weren't going to screw anything up. There was no wave curse last night, and it certainly didn't turn around. But honest to God, one of the funniest things I can remember, Remo, at a game in a long time, there was a guy in the first period who was just losing it on the Jumbotron, was trying to get everybody going, all supporting. So he got fan of the game. And in the third period, they went to do fan of the game, and they went over to him, and he was basically passed out in his seat. And that kind of was the way it felt. Now, credit to him. Once his friends realized that he was on the screen and was the fan of the game, they kind of gave him a nudge, and he did rally and get back to what he'd been doing in the first period. But it was in a lot of ways a bit ironic that I think a lot of the fan base was just sort of gassed at the end of the season with everything that had gone down, the ups and downs. So We had a little bit of all of it last night in Game 82. Everything other than a few more goals, including a 40th goal for Kyle Connor. Not that they didn't try to get him a lot. That shot prop was almost a lock before the game even started. And then they wrapped it up. Jets raised the sticks to the fans, moved on, and they're meeting the media today. But the passed out fan of the game to me will be another lasting memory of the 25-26 season at Fan Appreciation Night.
Yeah, I'm trying to think, like, what would the lasting memory be for anyone of this season? It would probably be that losing streak and the number of 1-goal losses. But you'd also have to say there was some good, the career seasons by Mark Scheifele. You mentioned Kyle Connor trying so hard last night for 40. I thought he was going to get it on the breakaway there at the end, but Nedeljkovic really stoning him. So it was supremely disappointing season. The drop-off, and just in terms of franchise history, as we said, like the second worst team. A lot of questions going to be asked, and I'm going to have fun this offseason figuring out, okay, where are the good Jets going to go from here? And is there a path for them to get back to the playoffs? I think you could argue they should have, could have easily been in there. I mean, they were fell just short, like that losing streak killed them. But I think there were a lot of issues with the roster construction, and we'll see, how are they going to approach it?
No doubt about it. I mean, listen, Chevy and Arnie are going to speak after the weekend. And we'll obviously have all that for you here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Arnie did speak after the game last night. And this wasn't Bones. This wasn't Todd McClellan after the 8-1 loss to end the Wings season in Florida the night before. This was just, a really disappointed and dejected head coach looking back on last night's game as well as the season overall. This is Arnie from after Game 82.
Yeah, I mean, we got the first goal, and then we kind of disrespected our opponent. We kind of became a little bit of pond hockey and trying to be cute, trying to make these fancy plays. And, a young team like that, they played last night, and instead of keeping the hammer down and staying after them, we just stopped playing. We didn't have the intensity. We didn't have the drive that we should have followed up with for the rest of that game.
Obviously, missing the playoffs was going to sting regardless, but does the way this season ended with 4 straight losses in some of the games, does that maybe stay with guys even more?
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, is it something that's going to stick with guys, and do you hope maybe that can be used as fuel kind of coming into next season?
I mean, you evaluate the 82 games, you're not evaluating the last 4, and there was, we felt like we were so close. We felt we were going to get in, and everybody had the belief that it was going to happen. And when it doesn't, it was just, like I said, it was a gut punch. And when you're reviewing the season, you're reviewing them all, not just what just happened here the last 4.
The last 2 games, sellouts. The fans give you guys a standing O at the end. When you look and you see them do that, kind of what thoughts are going through your head?
Yeah, you're disappointed that you weren't better and, you didn't win those games. The other thing for me is that they're not all getting ready for the whiteout. And that's the big thing, is that I know how much this city and this province loves playoff time. And that's the hard part, is that, you've disappointed them that they can't get dressed up, they can't get crazy, and can't have the street parties. And so that's the hard part, and so, we're not going to have hockey here until September next year again. So, it's just, it's a letdown. Just feel like we let them down, and not these last 2 games. We say you don't make the playoffs. There's 82 games that you have to look at and find out the reasons why.
Hey, Bob, you hear the news?
I can't listen to the news, Daryl.
This is different.
Oh, it's so negative.
Not this time. Manitoba's got these new jobs agreements. And when the government builds things like new schools and hospitals, they'll hire Manitoba workers first.
Really?
Creating good jobs with union standards and more apprenticeships for Manitobans. And we'll get rid of those out-of-province license plates on job sites.
Keeping our money working for Manitobans, eh?
You betcha.
Well, that's how it should work.
I knew you'd like it.
A message from Manitoba's Building Trades and Federation of Labor.
Spring into good times at Uptown Alley and eat, drink, and play at the most fun spot in the city. You'll enjoy 5-pin bowling, 10-pin bowling, a state-of-the-art arcade, and good times playing laser tag as well. And in addition, Uptown Alley features incredible food and drink options at their bistro. Pop down to Uptown Alley with your group or make it a party. It's the best place in Winnipeg for birthday parties for kids, teens, or adults, and an amazing spot for corporate events where you just simply pick your activities, any of your add-ons, what you'd like to eat, and the Uptown Alley staff takes care of everything else. For more information, go to uptownalley.ca, book a lane at 488-0000, or pop down and see him at 1301 St. Matthews Avenue. Got a move coming up? Lean on our friends and longtime sponsors at Rolly's Transfer, the most trusted name in moving and storage in Manitoba. Now into their 7th decade with over 60 years of experience, family owned and operated. Head over to their website at rollys.com to find out all about their services serving Winnipeg and southern Manitoba. In the top right corner, you can click on Request an Estimate. Use the promo code WST for a special discount on moving services and moving supplies, and then simply let them know when you're moving, where you're moving to, and what needs to be moved, and the friendly staff at Rolly's will turn it around quickly and get you a great quote to get you locked in for the white glove treatment that they've been famous for now for over 60 years in Winnipeg. For all your moving needs, make it Rolly's Transfer, the most trusted name in the game. Find out more and request an estimate today on your next move at rollys.com. Has it been a minute since you've been to the dentist? If it is, our pal Doc Harry and the wonderful staff at St. Vital Dental Center would love to see you. They've been taking care of generations of Winnipeggers and Manitobans in St. Vital for years, and have now moved into a beautiful new facility at 167 St. Anne's with state-of-the-art equipment and convenient free parking right behind the building. They'll handle customers and clients from 6 months to 99 plus with a full array of dental services, from cleanings and checkups to surgeries like dental implants. Dr. Terry and the gang can absolutely do it all. We'll do it with a smile on their face and make your smile look even better than it's ever been. Go to stvitaldental.ca online to make an appointment. Pop into St. Vital Dental, get that girl taken care of, and tell them the boys at Winnipeg Sports Talk sent you. Yeah, I got to get down and see Dr. Terry and the gang at St. Vital Dental Center. It's I've been a little delinquent, but best in the biz down there. And I know that Terry and the St. Vital Dental Center gang are going to be ready for a marble race a little bit later on today. Listen, Kevin Sawyer is going to join us in a bit. Brandon Rewucki as well. We'll have more from Canada Life Center. But I did want to get to some comments from Elliotte Friedman. The new 32 Thoughts is out, sort of wrapping the season and getting ready for the playoffs. And they went into the teams that did not make the playoffs. And obviously the Winnipeg Jets are one of the more noteworthy ones considering what they were able to accomplish last season. Here's a little bit of an excerpt from 32 Thoughts from Elliotte Friedman on really not liking the way the Jets season ended.
I look at them and I just don't like the way their season ended, Kyle. Like I remember we talked about them at the deadline, and the feeling about them was this was not who they really were. Hellebuyck got hurt. It threw them into a bit of chaos, and we're better than that. And I think the only problem now, at the time, I was very accepting of that. Yep, team can have a tough year. But like Kyle, you mentioned it. I really don't like the way the season ended. Like a couple times they got within 2 points and we're like, oh God, like they're here. And who wants to see Hellebuyck in the first round of the playoffs after the way he played in the Olympics? And they just didn't get in. And the way they ended the season, 7-1 Philly, 6-2 to Vegas the other night. Their last game of the season, they lost 6-1 at home to the Sharks. I guess the Jets were not at all moved by the presence of Scott Oak, who was introduced to a thunderous ovation, only to see the home team go -5. Like, Scott, you're a huge inspiration for the home club, I have to say.
Right. Yeah. Shows you what they think of him.
But, I don't like that. And you could see at times at the end of the year, Arniel was really gritting his teeth, right? So I don't like the way that this has ended. I think in some ways it's taken that sort of, I don't know if excuse is the right word, but it's kind of taken that narrative away from the Jets, because they had a chance to show that the first 50 or 55 or 60 games were a fluke. They were right there and they didn't do it. And then they really fizzled at the end.
Interesting stuff from Elliot Friedman, and he did mention Scott Oak. I meant to mention that at the beginning. We were talking about takeaways from last night's game. Certainly was the highlight of the game, being in the building last night. Just an amazing standing O from the fans there. Very, very cool to see Scott there with his family, Darcy, a proud son right behind him, and very, very cool moment for Scott, who's had such an amazing career, bringing us the sights, sounds of really sports for the better part of 4 or 5 decades. So the Jets are done with that loss last night, as disappointing as it was. They stay in the 7th spot for the lottery. 6.5% chance of the first overall pick, 6.7% chance of the second overall pick, and a 44.4% chance to stay at 7. It'll be 1, 2, 7, or potentially 8 or 9 if teams behind the Winnipeg Jets move up into the top 2 or move up 10 spots, depending on how far back they are. Here's one more from Elliot, and this is a topic that is certainly not new to Winnipeg Sports Talk listeners, but it's interesting to hear from the number one insider in the game. Here's Elliot on some concerns with the Jets' development and how that may need to change moving forward.
I listened to Vinny Heinola's comments on, or saw them, and he talked about just how tough it's been not to play. I do think, I've said this before, and I'll say this again about the Jets. I do think that is something they have to take a long look at. Like, young players today, they want to play fast. They don't want to hear that, you know, they have to be in the minors and marinate for 3 or 4 years. Now, not everybody's ready, and we talked about this for Chicago. Everybody comes at a different pace. But I do think that's one of the challenges the Jets have, are that they really want guys to wait, and I think young players, that's harder to do now. And, you know, I was really tough to hear about Heinola talk about all the feelings he's had. And Salomonsson was a player who really showed up at the end of the year, and I thought he was pretty impressive at times. But I do think that the Jets are going to have to take a long, hard look at that, because I think young players today, they see that and they're like, okay, I'm here. If I go there, I'm going to have a longer road there than some other teams do. And it can be a problem. I think that was a factor with McGroarty. And, you know, Yeager played this week, and I hope he has a great career. I hope he never feels that way. But I do think it's a thing that they have to take a long look at. It's challenging, but because you really do try to make sure players are ready. But this generation is going to push faster than any other.
All right, so there's Elliot Friedman from 32 Thoughts. You can check the entire podcast out wherever you get Winnipeg Sports Talk. And as I say, this is those are not new takes, but interesting to hear them coming from out of the market for a guy that is as dialed in as the National Hockey League as anybody. We're going to talk to Kevin Sawyer about the end of the season coming up in just a minute. But I do want to let you know, gang, that the Tri-Hospital Dream Lottery is back to support Manitoba's 3 major hospitals, including Manitoba's only children's hospital. You can become an instant millionaire in our biggest ever grand prize draw. 5 dream home packages, each worth over $1.7 million in Winnipeg, Headingley, or oceanfront on Vancouver Island, or the largest cash option ever of $1.35 million Canadian tax-free. You'll get rewarded, though, for buying early with more early prize draws than ever before. Tickets are on sale right now. Go and check out all the amazing prizes, both the grand prizes and more early winners than ever. A spring bonus worth over $58,000 with 6 winners. A spring bonus shop with some shopping sprees at the local malls, St. Vital, Polo Park, or the Outlet Collection. The summer bonus, which will have 11 winners, including one that's going to take down a 2026 Land Rover Discovery Sport Landmark or a 26 Mercedes-Benz GLC 300, or $62,000 500 in cash, and 26 early bird winners, with the biggest prize being $210,000 in cash. It is the biggest hospital lottery ever, and it is all in support of the St. Boniface Hospital, the Health Sciences Center, and the HSC Winnipeg Children's Hospital. So get your tickets now to be eligible for all of the early bird prizes as well as the grand prize. Order your tickets online at tryhospitaldream.com. You can also get them on the phone toll free at 1-844-654-4677 and pick them up in person at London Drugs and select Red River Co-op food stores. Again, the Tri-Hospital Dream Lottery is back and online now. Get your tickets today at tryhospitaldream.com. All right, we're going to welcome in Kevin Sawyer. This segment is brought to you by Truck Month, which is on now at GMC. If you want something reliable, tough, and ready for whatever the schedule throws at you, that's the 2026 Sierra 1500 Pro Graphite Crew Cab in a nutshell. And it can be yours for 0% financing for 72 months. With a factory 2-inch lift, off-road suspension, and a 5.3-liter V8, this is one ready for anything truck. Don't miss out. Get to your local GMC dealer and take advantage of Truck Month before it ends. Let's welcome in Kevin Sawyer on the road. All right, on the end of last night's game 82, let's catch up with our pal Kevin Sawyer from TSN, who, along with our pal Dan Robertson, did one hell of a job broadcasting games all this year. Kevin, thanks for doing this. First up, I just want to give our thoughts to Dan. Missed him in the booth last night, but it certainly was nice to see our pal Dustin Nielsen get a shot behind the mic.
Yeah, I've worked with Dusty before, and a shout out to him. He did an outstanding job on short notice getting ready. I mean, he's such a pro. And yeah, lots of thoughts to Dan and his mom. His mom isn't doing well, so he's back in Halifax and Trenton, Nova Scotia, and he's with his mom. Good for TSN to take care of him immediately. So he was on a plane within hours once he got the news. I just heard from Dan, and he said his mom's comfortable. Obviously family first, but he was really sad that he couldn't be there to wrap up the season with everybody.
Well, obviously, I mean, our thoughts are all with Dan and his family right now, and they're, it kind of does put everything into perspective. As disappointed as everyone is at the end of a year, there are bigger things, and I think all Jet fans and certainly our listeners are sending our best to Dan, his mother, and everyone out there in the Maritimes. Moving on to obviously less serious topics. That was a less than serious game, I would say, to finish up the regular season. What do you make of the last week? Starting off with the disappointment of Saturday night against the Philadelphia Flyers, Kevin, and man, it just seemed to that seemed to be the end, and this team had nothing left in these final 3 games of the season.
It reminds me of the realities of being a professional athlete, and how much hope and spirit matter. I mean, and it's not like I'm not suggesting for a second, Huss, that those men gave up, but you can. Like I've said this before, there's a difference between running as fast as you can and running for your life. There's a difference, and it's a fine difference, but there's a difference that makes the world. And so I felt like watching and knowing the score of that Edmonton game before the Philadelphia puck dropped, I think hope just kind of started to fizzle away, and you saw the result. And I mean, that's to me, in a nutshell, how I explain the ending of the season, where already it was a Hail Mary long shot to get into the playoffs. But I mean, I felt like that was the dagger that started the downward spiral of the reality of the Jets and the situations they frankly put themselves in.
It is kind of stunning. I mean, when you take a step back, because we're always living in the moment. I mean, the team had been on fumes, or basically with very, very slight playoff hopes coming out of the Olympic break, and played valiantly to try to get into it, which they did, and then obviously it fell apart. But when you step back and look at this 82 games, it's wild to see the different kind of segments of the schedule. I mean, a 9-3 start that, frankly, by all accounts, was not really anywhere close to their best, but the record was good.
Yeah.
And then really it just seemed at the start of November with that road trip out to the West Coast, things started spiraling downwards. You add in the Hellebuyck injury, and then even when Hellebuyck came back, they just could not stop the bleeding for the better part of 2 months. And even with a strong kind of final 25 games, whatever you want to call it, obviously minus the last 4, you dig yourself such a big hole, it's tough to get out of. And, evaluating this season, I think, really depends a lot on how you value, I would say, the entire course of the season, and then dig into, a bunch of aspects of this hockey club that certainly will be at the top of the list for Kevin Sawyer.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot to unpack, and my mind wants to go to a few different directions. You're right, that 9-3 record was, the results were great, but the process wasn't. I mean, October and even half of November is a bit of a track meet, and all of the NHL is there's new players on each team that they're trying to get their systems back, getting into, becoming cohesive. That's when, like, the Jets the year prior took advantage of teams while they were getting themselves going. They had that team structure, and they took advantage, and they played well and got points. So there was a sense of kind of like, oh, wow, we're lucky after that 9-3 start. And then the reality started to set in. Listen, if you go back to the beginning of the year, when you stack these two things together, the injuries to Perfetti, Lowry, and Sandberg put them in the hole. But even without those injuries, this roster, and we now know, but at the time, I don't think Kevin Sawyer or the coaching staff did know, it wasn't enough. I mean, Jonathan Toews, all due respect, and I love the man and how proud he should be of himself, wasn't at the level that he needed to be a true second-line center. That's the reality that I see. So you're without a true second-line center. Adam Lowry's not a second-line center. And then Gus Nyquist, well, just a miserable year. I feel bad for the man, but it wasn't close. So you're trying to manufacture a second line. Like, the roster wasn't where it needed to be for this team to have success. So immediately they're chasing it twofold, because it wasn't built, or they didn't have the guns, they didn't have the horses, and then they had injuries to start on top of that with. And I mean, they just were never able to recover after that.
That 11-gamer over the course of December into the holidays will often be cited as the real downfall of the Jets. I still sort of think that it started a bit earlier than that. But listen, when you go 11 games in the National Hockey League without winning, you're putting yourself truly behind the 8 ball, and they were never really able to recover. Why do you think, Kevin, because it was a long period of hockey, and, Hellebuyck was out, but then he was back, and they were just, do you think, was there such a reliance on Hellebuyck in the past that they figured that the return of Hellebuyck would sort of just naturally get the team going back in the right direction? Or was it just more that even with Hellebuyck back there and guys coming back healthy, we kind of saw the finished product of the team overall, and it just wasn't good enough?
Yeah, like, didn't you feel like, I should say, I felt like when Hellebuyck went out with his injury, I didn't feel like he was changing games for the team at that time anyways, to be quite frank. I thought he was okay. And then the injury certainly didn't help. And then, Comrie, that was a real dose of reality for a backup goaltender, career backup goaltender, to carry that load. I didn't at all see this being Hellebuyck out as much as I did, wow, Hellebuyck being out put a magnifying glass on some issues. The issues were this for me, and that 11-game stretch kind of encapsulates the year where I can't remember, but there was a lot of one-goal games in that stretch. And the Jets weren't able to get over the hump and win those close games. And I think that was kind of around the time maybe where they were trying to shift the way they played. So open it up and try to score goals and attack and make other teams turn the puck over. You score more goals, but you give up even more goals. And then now you're trying to maybe change a little bit of the way you're playing, defend a little bit more, try to get above players, and now you're scoring less, but you're still, you're giving up less, but still not enough as far as having the way you defend Husk leading to offense. That was why the Jets were the best team last year. This year, it just didn't work, and it was because of a combination of they didn't have enough skill in their top six, and they didn't have enough team speed to be able to attack and make teams turn the puck over. So it was the combination of the fact that their biggest strength, and that is defending, they didn't have it, and therefore they weren't able to create offense the right way from their defense. And the silver lining for me is this. It forces them to look at that reality. Who are we going forward? How do we want to build this team? It's not like they're rebuilding it, but clearly they didn't have the right personnel to attack and play the way they did the prior year. Or are they going to restock with some different types of players, and maybe their bottom nine are going to play a different way? But that was, to me, that they weren't able to get over the hump in those one-goal games because their team game just wasn't tight enough without or with the puck.
Well, and speaking of that, I mean, there were crucial points in so many of those games. I mean, I think of just coming right out of the Christmas break. I mean, that loss to the Wild where the team was up late. We thought Kyle Connor had iced it with an empty netter, and all of a sudden you're losing in overtime. And then following that up with the Oilers, again, like third period leads that they weren't able to hold. It was just so uncharacteristic from the standard and really the blueprint that this team lived on last season going to a President's Trophy.
They had a record, and we had a big log list, and we certainly didn't want to pile on last night on TSN, but we had a big log list of comparables from this year and last year, and that is when they scored first, their record, when they had a lead after two periods, one-goal games, all those types of things. I mean, it was lockdown, almost guaranteed hockey. So what do teams do when you're in the third period? If they're down by a goal or two, they're going to up their risk profile at some point. That's what all teams are going to do. Their coaches are going to, okay, we're going to open the gates. We're going to push a little bit more. We're going to get our D-man up. We're going to four-man attack. And then in those situations, you can take advantage of other teams if your team game is tight. If it's not, you're going to give up a lot. And that's what we saw. That was a difference this year, where in the third periods where they weren't able to close it out or hold on to leads, it was because other teams were upping their risk profile. They were attacking more. They were being a little bit more carefree. And the Jets, again, that team structure and that team defense was exposed because of it, where the year before it was like, not a chance. We're locking this down and we're going to throw in an empty netter just for fun.
Yeah, the goal of the organization will certainly be to move past this and get back to where they were. How big of a job is that, in your opinion? I mean, is it a matter of a few changes, or? I mean, might the prescription for this team be a real overhaul outside of obviously some major core pieces that I don't think will be even considered to be moved?
Yeah, overhaul doesn't come to my mind, and here's why. It's because the core is locked up, and that's a good thing. So we're talking about Vilardi, Connor, Scheifele, Morrissey, Hellebuyck. You got Iafallo, Samberg, Pionk. You got some of these core players, a lot of them. And then, to me, you look at a guy like Morgan Barron, who probably, because there was such a need for him at center ice, didn't play up the lineup like he should have for as long as he should have. That is a good hockey player in Morgan Barron. And I believe this, and I'm going to say it. In the right scenario, he could threaten to be a 20-goal scorer. And I know that's a big, bold statement, but I believe in the right situation on a third line, he could be a dangerous guy. If you add Paul Koepke into that mix, and now you're throwing a couple of young guys, so now you've got a roster that's starting to make some sense. Third line, fourth line, the thing for me and the task here is still the same problem. Second line, you need special players. The top six in the National Hockey League, those are special men. And particularly on teams that consider themselves contenders, you've got to have special players. And I think the Jets should be excited about some prospects that are coming up, but there's no special in those players yet as far as jumping into those. So that's the task for Kevin Sawyer. I mean, I think back to Limey, Dubois, Vilardi, Iafallo, Apari. I mean, can Kevin Sawyer come up with some kind of a trade? I mean, we all know how miserable July 1st is, but can Kevin Sawyer come up with some kind of magic to manufacture a second line that is going to be a threat? That is, at the end of the day, that for me is where it starts and stops.
Yeah, I can't disagree with you. And I mean, this is a conversation we've been having for a long time. I mean, going back to getting Paul Stastny and then Kevin Hayes. And the fact of the matter is, there's probably 20 teams in the NHL right now that would love to upgrade their second line center. It just seems that the need to upgrade here in Winnipeg is greater than in most of those other spots because of everything else that they're surrounded by.
Yeah, well, and so I said this before. I said this at Trade Center, where the Jets have already proven that they can have success. And I'm not saying you can win a Stanley Cup this way, but I mean, Vlad Nemestikov was the second line center last year, and they won the President's Trophy. Now, to me, that wasn't good enough, and they needed more there. But maybe if you can't get a second line center, then the priority shifts to at least having a robust, speedy, powerful winger on that second line. And then, I mean, do you try Morgan Barron there, or does Vlad go back there, buy you some time until maybe something else comes along? I mean, the problem went from last year to this year was you don't have a second line center to now you don't have a second line center or winger. And that's the reality of it. So you put Iafallo on the top line, Velarde on the second line. That was the right move, in my opinion, from Scott Arniel, but that was out of necessity, not out of desire. So, I mean, second line winger is as much of a priority, in my opinion, and it's going to be easier for them to find that than it is a centerman.
Yeah, the search for the second line center, I'm sure, will be a topic we hit quite often when we're doing off-season chat here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Kevin, obviously there's a lot of negatives of this season. Let's finish off on a positive. Was there a player or two that you look back at this season and go, this guy took a big step forward? This is a player that finishing up this season today is in a much better spot to help the Winnipeg Jets moving forward than they were even at the end of the successful 24-25 season.
Great question. And listen, yes, there's a few. So let's start with the best player on the team, and Mark Scheifele, with a record-setting year in a season where it would have been very difficult to come up with offense. Him and his line were, I mean, out of this world. But the reason I bring him up is not just because of the points, but it's the way that he led and the way that he, although not perfect, and nobody is, I mean, this is a two-way centerman. This is one of the best two-way centermen, in my opinion, now in the National Hockey League. He's not the best, but without the puck, he has gotten so much better. I mean, we see him all the time, low in his own zone, popping pucks. I mean, and I think Mark Scheifele now completely understands, and he's proven it now for the last few years, but no year more than this, that good defense and commitment without the puck leads to offense. 103 points, franchise record setter. Good for him in a difficult year. I look at Solomonson on the back end and him getting the opportunity to come up, playing top 4 minutes. You know, hopefully his health gets back soon enough, but I think that he's proven, and the Jets have seen enough to know, like, we got a real player here for a long time, and he's going to play. I mean, who knows? Will he be Josh Morrissey's partner at some point? Will he be with Dylan Sandberg? He's, to me, proven that we got a player there, and he's only to get bigger, stronger, better. And then I look at a guy like Morgan Barron, and although a fourth-line center, you might be saying, you're talking about a fourth-line center here. The way that he draws, and I mean, he's out on the penalty kill. He's out at the first shift after a power play. The offense that he puts up with the minutes and the players that he plays with, all due respect. I mean, there's a guy that can really help you. I mean, to me, he's a middle six kind of player eventually and potentially, and I think that he deserves a lot of credit for the way that he played. I mean, I think that there's a lot to be excited for. I mean, he's only 24 years old. I mean, he's got a lot of road ahead of him, and I see a player that's big, strong, skates, and is getting more. He's getting better with more confidence, so I'm excited to see what he can do. It could go on, but those are some of the guys that jump up.
Well, I mean, the Barron, I agree with you 100% on Barron, and I would not be at all shocked if the Jets make a real push to try to extend him on the 1st of July. And to be honest, when we're looking back at some of the things that you think maybe could have been done differently with the struggles of the Toews and the struggles of Lowry, I mean, sure would have loved to have seen maybe Morgan Barron get a run higher up in the lineup earlier, and I think it might have helped the team. But we'll have plenty of time to go through everything that happened over 82 as we get ready for May 5th, the draft lottery, the draft, and what'll be a very interesting offseason for the Winnipeg Jets. I guess you and Dan aren't done, though, Kev. Looking forward to heading out to Zurich to call the World Championships for the second year?
Yeah, that won't be terrible. We got about 3 weeks to enjoy home and family, and then Dan and I are going to head over and call the world champs. Niederreiter, we talked off on the screen and off the screen. He's fired up to play in his home country. That'll be an experience, but it's going to be a little expensive, I hear, but it'll be fun.
Kevin, listen, hopefully we can catch up maybe before you guys head out, talk a little playoffs, but thanks again for everything this year. It's so much fun having you on the program. Again, we wish our best to Dan out east back at home with family, and I hope you have a safe travels out west, and we'll talk soon, but thanks for everything this year from myself and Michael.
Truly has been my pleasure. I always look forward to talking to you guys. Your passion and your knowledge reflects this whole city and this whole team and the whole fan base. It's been a pleasure being a part of things with you, Huss.
Princess Auto is a proud sponsor of Winnipeg Sports Talk, in a lot of ways synonymous with Winnipeg. Headquartered here in the Peg, founded here in Winnipeg, and now serving Canadians coast to coast with the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new is at Princess Auto. So while we wait for the Bombers to kick off, get ready for spring. Those projects on your list with great deals throughout the month waiting for you at your local Princess Auto, Panet Road, Portage Avenue West in the city, out in Brandon. And you can always shop online 24 hours a day at princessauto.com. Spring is just around the corner, and our friends at Chud's Power Sports up in Gimli, Manitoba's power sports superstar, are ready to get this snow out of here. But before we do that, great end-of-season deals on sleds and snowmobiles that you can check out. But as we get excited for the snow to leave, great preseason deals on motorcycles of all brands, the best in ATVs and side-by-sides, not to mention golf carts for the summer up ahead as well. And it doesn't stop there. Amazing RV options for you to take advantage of the summer, and so many options when it comes to boats as well, in addition to outboard motors from Suzuki and Mercury. The best deals in town. That's how they've been in business as Manitoba's power sports superstore for 80 years. Pop out and see him in Gimli at the corner of Highway 8 and 231, and shop online today at their website at chudspowersports.com. April and spring are here, and Donnie and the gang at Manitoba Battery are kicking it off strong with Wing Power event. Right now, you can save big on the batteries that you actually need this season. Lawn tractor batteries starting at just $37.50. RV and deep cycle batteries from $69.50, and heavy duty power like Group 27 and 78 DT starting at $89.50. Need serious cranking power? Check out their 13-inch stud post battery, $94.50 while supplies last. All in stock and all priced to move. Visit Manitoba Battery on the north side on Logan Avenue, on the south side on Dovercourt Drive, and get powered up for spring at Manitoba Battery, powering what matters. Check them out online today at manitobabattery.com. All right, just about to bring in our pal Brandon Rewucki on. This segment is brought to you by your local Prairie Toyota dealers with Red Tag Days on, featuring the Toyota Tacoma. The Tacoma standard I-Force engine boasts an impressive towing capacity of up to 6,400 pounds. In fact, it's the most powerful Tacoma ever. So whether you're hauling gear to the rink or heading to an away game, you can tackle it with ease. And when it's time to load up, the available power liftgate makes loading your gear in and out a cinch. Experience power, capability, and convenience with the Toyota Tacoma. Visit shoptoyota.ca or your local Prairie Toyota dealer during Red Tag Days from March through May. Host of Skates and Plates, Brandon Rewucki, joins us now. Rue, it's over. And what a thud the season ended with. Although we've talked a lot about draft pick, what were people worried about the team going on a run? I mean, I don't think you can really sit here and both sides it and complain. That being said, man, that was a tough week to end the season, certainly for the guys that wear the jerseys.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends how you look at it, right? It's a pretty legendary draft pick run. Like if you're gonna fall out of it like that, and they did it. And seventh isn't the worst spot in the world to be in. But it's funny. We did our episode last night, and the game ended like around 9:30ish, and we were like, we should probably hold off recording right away in the case of a Bones 2.0 press conference meltdown if Scott Arniel really wants to give it to the guys here, because that was a performance worthy of it. So we held back a little bit. Scott Arniel maybe held back a lot, but look, it's not, whatever happens in the offseason is going to be much more impactful and indicative of what this team is going to be like next year. But it's embarrassing. Like I get everybody takes days off here and there and things like that, but there needed to be a lot more pride on display in that game against San Jose. It was just far too easy. And it was just an embarrassing effort, to be honest. So it does put everybody in a much sour mood. And I think there might be more people that are like, blow this thing up, as opposed to try to retool and get it in contention after you have a complete no-show against the young Sharks team.
Yeah, I mean, listen, anyone that's judging everything on the performance of the team in game 82, I think is sort of missing the forest through the trees. I mean, this is a much bigger issue. And let's face it, if we really want to talk about the end of the season, that was last Saturday. Now, they got their asses kicked on Saturday as well, to the Philadelphia Flyers. That one was last night was 6-1. That was 7-1, I believe.
Yeah.
And I think we saw a lot more of the real feelings of Scott Arniel based on the end. Like, once that game happened, that was curtains for the club. And, you know, they sort of went through the rest of the schedule, those final 3 games. I wasn't at all surprised with what we saw in Vegas or in Utah. Actually, I was maybe a little surprised, if anything, of the way they battled back in the Utah game. After, you know, the first 30 minutes of the game, I think the shots were 25-9 or so. You know, they did some good things later on, still ended up losing the game. I did think, though, we'd see a bit better team effort, you know, in the final game, on home ice, in a full building, against a team that had played the night before in Chicago and had completely fallen apart in the third period. That being said, quick credit while credit is due. That is a young, exciting, fun hockey team over there. Now, they've certainly gone through a lot to get there, which has probably been an absolute misery for the better part of the last 5 or 6 seasons in San Jose. But my God, Macklin Celebrini setting the Sharks' all-time scoring record at 19 years old. I mean, these aren't a bunch of chumps that he was passing on that list. I mean, Joe Thornton's in the Hall of Fame. So, I mean, we saw 2 very different teams at very different points in where they are. And listen, all roads lead to, you know, as interesting an offseason with as much pressure on the general manager as I think we've seen really in the 2.0 era.
Yeah, and I would say rightfully so, though.
100%.
I mean, I don't know if I mean, maybe you do. Maybe people listening do. I don't know. But like, Chevy had the worst offseason in the NHL this year. It is a calamitous drop of 34 points.
I'd argue a 14-month period going back to the trade deadline last year. Now, listen, I know they were trying to get Brock Nelson, and he blocked it, and there's probably a lot of other things that we don't know, and they're not throwing those out. But when you think about the ads, Luke Schenn, Brandon Tanev, the Tanev one didn't really bear much fruit. The cost was significant, and the 2nd and 4th round picks for Luke Schenn, and then to keep rolling him out over and over with the respect that a veteran deserves, with terrible results up until the trade deadline. I mean, those are the sort of things that I'll look back, that I hope that when they're doing their autopsy on everything, realize that some of the ways that have been done, the way things have been done here for a long time, simply, like, whether the game has changed, whether they made a bad bet, you have to be able to pivot earlier. And the fact that they went through that, I mean, we weren't talking about 2 or 3 weeks of playing bad. We were talking basically from the 1st of November to late January, where this team could not do anything right, and it kept compounding and compounding, and there wasn't really any significant moves that were made.
There weren't any moves. It just a complete inactivity across the whole organization. Management did nothing. The coaching staff did nothing. Like, what this season has done more than anything, and I know people will have their takes on, do you blow it up now? Do you retool and get back after it? And I do think there is validity in both paths if done correctly. But what it really did was it shone a light on the issues and the flaws this organization has currently. Now it's up to them. Are you going to accept a dose of realism and just kind of come to the cold hard truth that the way we had been doing things is no longer effective in the current climate and make changes? Or do you double down and act stubborn and stick with what you've been doing, which has led to limited success? Some years more, some years less. And there's an opportunity for the Jets to maybe embrace who they are with a little more thoughtfulness and inventiveness and potentially usher in a surprising era of success. It's there for them if they, I think, just take the splash of cold water to their faces and accept reality. But this can also be a bit of a dark turn here if they don't handle things the correct way. Yeah, this might be, Huss, more than any time since they've come back to Winnipeg, the ultimate fork in the road moment for the franchise, where we might look back on this 10, 15 years later fondly or very, very negatively, because it can go south really quickly here. But I do think there is an element of hope if they can push the right buttons and make the right moves.
Well, I mean, listen, when we look at this team, I mean, there's obviously a core right now of players that are signed long-term. Hellebuyck in net, Kyle Connor, Mark Scheifele, Gabriel Velarde, and Josh Morrissey, who is still on his long-term extension, but with a much shorter term remaining than those other two. When I think about this, and I'm with you, like, we are coming to that fork in the road. I'm not sure that we're at it right now, but I think it is all dependent on what happens next year. Because to me, Josh Morrissey is the linchpin. Like, unless they do their meetings and realize, listen, we see where this is going, we need to be proactive on this, and maybe then they start thinking about a much bigger seismic move involving some of those guys that have the term that we were talking about. But for me, next season is going to show Josh Morrissey a lot about where this team is headed, and I think justifiably so. He might love Winnipeg. He's been a huge part of this team. I mean, he's the best. But put it this way, if this team does what the Rangers did, President's Trophy, miss the playoffs, finish in the bottom 5 of the league, if that is the trajectory of this team, I don't think Josh Morrissey's signing up for an extension next year. That's just my opinion. So maybe they kick the can down the road and see if they can turn it around. But the bottom line is that we're going to get to a point where it is, have they done enough around these players to give them a chance to win together? Or do you have to make far bigger, far more impactful moves that certainly would affect the short term, but set you up, hopefully, if the reason why you would make that, for more long-term sustainable success?
It's pretty fascinating because I truly think you can do either one this upcoming season. The biggest sin is to just do the old nibble around the edges thing, right? Where it's, we'll bring this guy in here, we'll make minor trade here. That's not the position the Jets are in right now. It's either, damn it, we're going all in. You know what? Like we've got a Hall of Fame goalie that we believe, I would assume, is at the peak of his powers, along with a top 5-ish defenseman, the 5th leading scorer in the NHL this past year, and a basically 40-goal guy. Like we're going to try to win this. And I mean, it's not easy. It's going to be difficult, but I do think there is an actual path to doing it. And I'd be okay with that, where you take some chances and try to take a run at this thing, because ultimately, what's the likelihood the Jets get somebody of Hellebuyck's caliber in their organization again? Pretty minute. Like, these guys just don't come around too often. So to me, it's either that or, like you said there, we see the writing on the wall. It's unlikely. interestingly, with the place the league is at right now, a lot of the former rebuilding teams are trying to come out of it. A lot of the middle teams are trying to bump out of the mushy middle. Maybe we can take advantage of some desperation out there and kickstart a rebuild that doesn't need to last 6-7 years like it's looking in Chicago right now, or longer, right? If things go really poorly. So honestly, Huss, I would be okay with either position, but just pick one of those. Like, pick one and commit to it is kind of where I'm at right now.
Let me hit you with the why not question of the day for not Autocorp at Waverly and McGillivray, and I'll throw this to the chat as well. Can the Jets make a significant move in the offseason to get what they need? We're talking about a second-line center still, improvement on the blue line. Can the improvement happen without trading a Connor, a Scheifele, a Velarde, a Morrissey, a Hellebuyck? Like, if those guys are untouchable, if that is your group going forward, is there enough else on the roster that could actually make the sort of moves that would bring back the assets that could help this team move forward?
Yeah, of course there is. Again, it's not easy, or else everybody would be doing it every offseason. But, I think of two moves, and I didn't even have to, dive into this too much here, but just two that popped to mind right away. And I believe neither of these guys had trade protection, so there's no excuses to be thrown on these guys. But Trevor Zegras was dealt for a second-round pick and a fourth-line center. He's currently the number one center on a playoff team right now. Igor Chinikov was moved for, I believe, a second and a third-round pick.
Yeah.
He's on pace for 75 points right now. That doesn't cost you anything. Like, in the grand scheme of things, that's peanuts. And if the Jets made those kinds of moves, there's your second line, Huss. Like, you just solved it right there. Now, of course, there's a lot of poison pill type deals that teams try to make, chasing that, and it doesn't work. I'm not saying, they go out and they do whatever they need to do and it's solved. It's that easy. But there's always distressed assets available. There's always prospects that haven't taken the leap or are in the wrong organization at the wrong time. Or, there's a myriad of different situations individually from players across the league that you can take advantage of. But you have to be proactive and aggressive in doing it. So it's certainly doable. It's not easy. And it's more difficult than going the rebuild route. Like, I can't deny any of those facts as well. But for people that say it's completely impossible, I mean, there's a lot of teams out there that find a way to do it every single year. I just think the Jets need to be much more creative in trying to solve those issues than they have been.
You make such a good point about, like, the Chinikov is amazing. And this goes to show also how crazy it is, the prices that NHL GMs pay at the deadline for some of these guys that are really not needle movers. Like, that trade was Danton Heinen, a second rounder this year and a third rounder next year for a guy that came in. He had 18 goals and 36 points in his first 41 games with the Penguins. And not surprisingly, those two teams that you just mentioned that made those two moves both flourished and are going to be playing against each other. Like, one of those teams is going to be in the second round of the playoffs.
Yeah.
So it is a really good point. I bring that up only to compare the price the Jets paid at the deadline to get a Luke Schenn.
Yeah.
And then
I think deal, like those two right there cost what those two guys, within reason, right?
I mean, and the thing is, once you make those moves, you've given up those assets, you have less ability to do other things. And to be honest, I think part of the identity of the club not wanting to look like those were bad moves led them to continue to throw Luke Schenn out there night after night after night, when it was clear that he was, never mind not helping, he was actively impacting this team in a negative way.
Yeah, just classic sunk cost fallacy, right? Where, the picks are gone at that point. You whether you play them or you sit them, they're not coming back, and they just double down on a rough move. Like there's just no other way to describe what happened. It's bad. It was a bad decision, further compounded by negative moves afterwards from the coach and the GM at the same time. So, yeah, but like again, having said that, they have already recouped some of those picks and prospects. I know Moraditesh came on and said, Vladdy, Nino, guys like that may not be on the block this up, but like there's another opportunity there where Nino, sure, it might just be a second or a third round pick. Vladdy could be a third or a fourth round pick, but guess what happens come 1-2 months into the season? Some kid's unhappy, he's not getting a chance, wants an opportunity to shine, and now you have some picks at your disposal to make sneaky moves.
Well, listen, you bring up those two guys in particular who both had sort of down years. And listen, they've been great Jets. They've done a lot of positive things. I mean, obviously there's the story with Nino and when he decided to get his surgery and how that impacted his season. Great, he got his 1,000th game. Funny enough, I kind of forgot that he was at $4.99 going into last night. I'm wondering, why the hell is he playing up on the second line? Well, that's why. I mean, they were trying to get that milestone. And now he's going to be going and playing for Switzerland at the World Championships. I know he's very proud of being Swiss. It's great. I don't hold it against him. But, I mean, this team is moving forward. There's 1 year left on both of those deals. If you had a taker for a reasonable price for either of those, to me, the benefit is also opening up the spot. Mm-hmm. I mean, to get some new blood, because it is very clear that even if you're keeping that core around it, you want to be able to get some influx of some younger, faster players, as we saw at the end of the season. But I think also a change of the lineup, of the chemistry within the group, and making this a new team, not just basically the same guys with one or two new dudes that are going to be playing 10 minutes a night if they're lucky.
Well, this team needs speed too. Like, they, like you said, there's a spot where Nino and Vladdy can be effective on another team, 100%. Not this version of the Winnipeg Jets, though. So, I just don't really see the argument in keeping them both around, other than we value as an organization loyalty over anything else. Because to me, any other, I just can't understand any other argument there. Because it's not like, Nino's the 2020 guy that he was 5 years ago. Vladdy's, he was, an amazingly savvy pickup and gave Winnipeg way more than they could have realistically hoped for. But this was a massive step back. So again, this gets into the situation when you talk about the Gus Nyquist conundrum of this season is, are the young guys going to give you more or less than what the older guys have right now? We saw very quickly the answer was hell no, because Brad Lambert came in after a god-awful Moose season and made Nyquist look completely expendable, which I think a lot of us would have expected, even if you didn't have high hopes for Lambert. So this is where I think Winnipeg would do well to have, and I don't even want to call it a level of cutthroat here, because it's also just the reality of
it's pro sports, man.
Like the guys get it. Everybody, fans get it, guys get it. You're not even going to be necessarily upset or speak ill will. It's just like, look, it's the name of the game. We appreciate what you did here, but as a team, we're moving on, right? Be honest with them. They'll be happy. They understand it, and everybody moves forward here. But that's an element that I think the Winnipeg Jets need to incorporate a lot more of, is just being frank and less leaning on the side of loyalty first.
Hey, Remo, if you could, we've got some clips. We're going to talk Toews after we finish up with Brandon, and Cole Perfetti spoke as well. But Remo, if you can get number 6 of the clips that we've got, this is Gabe Vilardi who spoke, and I really enjoy listening to Gabe. He is a guy that does not bullshit you. He'll give you a straight answer to a straight question. This is Gabe Vilardi speaking earlier today on the post-Olympic break push that the team had.
After the break, I think maybe it hit on us a little bit more like it's time, we need to start winning and finding ways to win. So maybe that kind of gave us a little jolt. I know it gave me personally a jolt. I think the injection of youth, kind of seeing Sal and how good he was playing and calling up Lambo and seeing how he kind of got more comfortable as he was with us longer. that was good to see, and bringing a bit more speed to our lineup.
I've heard a couple of people say that about kind of after the Olympic break, things were really galvanized. We figured things out, and the quality of play was really good. And one of my questions that I would say is like, well, why did it take that long on a veteran team that maybe should have been able to change course a little bit earlier than that?
I don't know. I don't have an answer for that really. Like I've already mentioned a few times, just that streak of losing. You got to find a way to break out of that. Good teams don't lose 10 games in a row. Like that was a really hard time for us, and why it took so long, I don't know.
Definitely appreciate the honesty, and I think if they did know, they would have done something more. But what was really interesting of that was, the first part of it, Brandon, where, Gay was asked about the way things started turned around, and he specifically mentioned Elias Salmonson and Brad Lambert in the answer and what they brought to the team. And we know it. The fans have been talking about it. The chat's going over it. And it's pretty clear that at least some of the players were getting it too. And to me, that is an issue that not only it finally happens that anything, when you think, it's not like this team was running at 100-point pace and didn't give these guys, they were desperately looking for something to help pull it out. It was within the organization the entire time. Now, listen, those two guys weren't the linchpins of turning everything around. But you know what I'm saying? I was fascinated by hearing that from Gabe Vilardi, who very clearly mentioned those guys as big improvements to the team. And again, especially with Salomon on the blue line compared to who was on him before. I mean, you wonder what could have been different if management had maybe felt that same way a little earlier.
Yeah, and then that's also part of the spark he's talking about, where whether it's a youngster or even just picking somebody up off waivers, just injecting someone new into the situation, right? And it's not too difficult to read between the lines there with what Gabe Vilardi's either saying or not saying. That they felt they needed more, and they were kind of left hung out to dry by the management group. And I don't think there was anything incorrect with what he said there. The only thing I would say is, he's like, I don't know. I think he does know. I think he doesn't want to say it, which I do. I understand that part of it, right? We don't want to cause a firestorm before heading out for the off season. So that's a pretty damning indictment, Huss, when the players see something that management and coaching is either unaware of or oblivious to making the change to. That to me is more that's a pretty damn big alarm bell right there.
Well, needless to say, we've got lots of time to talk about it as we get into the Stanley Cup playoffs, and for us in Winnipeg, the countdown to our Cinco de Mayo party. Margaritas and number 1 or number 2 picks served up, hopefully, when we get to that. Brandon, have yourself a great weekend. Are you a UFC guy?
Not really. Not overly.
Okay, I couldn't remember you were into it, so you take it you're not going to be Octagon side tomorrow night. Well,
I didn't know if you were referring to the Flyers Penguins series opener as a UFC event, which very well could be just as gruesome and bloody on Saturday.
I'm taking Pittsburgh.
Probably the right move. Yep. I'm my big it's going to be a power play fest, and it's just going to be infuriating. That's my prediction. I don't know if I'm going to enjoy this series a ton, but playoff hockey is always fun to watch. So
yeah, exactly. At least the team's in it. And listen, with the way that they rallied from being the worst team in the league for the month of January, pretty impressive what Rick Tocchet was able to be done. Maybe you Flyer fans can go at least 2 weeks without firing him at the end of the season. After
no promise.
Brandon, thanks so much, buddy. Take it easy. Have a great weekend.
Have a good one, guys. We'll talk soon.
All right, there is Brandon Rewucki. As we continue the program, we will get to the playoffs and hit some picks. We've got marbles coming up, but coming up next, we're going to hear from Jonathan Toews, amongst other members of the Jets, from Locker Cleanout Day today. WST would like to thank our friends at Cleanline Plumbing, Heating, and Electrical for their support of Winnipeg Sports Talk throughout the Jets season. When we're doing the Winnipeg Jet lines, we do it with the gang at Clean Line, who are the leaders in Winnipeg residential and commercial plumbing, heating, and electrical services. Your one-stop shop with over 40 years of experience. And like the captain, Adam Lowry, has the back of his teammates, Clean Line has yours with 24/7 emergency services. So when you're in a jam at any time of the day, Clean Line has you covered. 204-500-2001 is the number. Write that one down, 204-500-2001 for 24/7 emergency services from the official plumbing service of the Winnipeg Jets. You can find out more online at cleanline.ca. Spring is here, and it's time to get down to Winnipeg Sports Superstore Royal Sports at 750 Pembina Highway to get ready for it. The bike shop is open with incredible selection of bikes, including e-bikes that you'll want to check out. Of course, baseball season is here, all the equipment ready to go for the season, and tons of Toronto Blue Jays merchandise. All the soccer players are getting loaded up with the best selection of boots and unis around, not to mention tons of World Cup merch of Canada and the rest of the world just in time for kickoff. And for all you NFL fans, the draft is coming up in just a couple weeks. The NFL draft hats are all up on the wall, and for the first time in a while, they're actually really nice. So you can pop down there. Get ready for spring, the World Cup, the NFL draft, Blue Jays season, and more at Royal Sports. 50 years plus, family owned and operated at 750 Pembina Highway. It's fight week in Winnipeg, UFC on Saturday, and Boston Pizza is the place to be. Pop into your local Winnipeg and area Boston Pizza now and enter to win a VIP UFC experience to this Saturday's UFC Fight Night at Canada Life Centre. The grand prize includes 2 official UFC Fight Night tickets with premium seating, in-venue hospitality with UFC athlete experiences, and reserved access to the ceremonial weigh-ins. Plus, Friday night, come into Boston Pizza City Place for a UFC fighter meet and greet after the weigh-ins at 7 p.m. There'll be pictures and autographs with the surprise UFC fighter, UFC prizes, and loaded Octagon pizzas on special. Book your table. Give Crystal a call. City Place, 925-4109. Get ready for Fight Week and UFC Fight Night at Canada Life Centre at Boston Pizza. Much more to come on WST, but first, a big shout-out to our friends at Winnipeg's favorite local brewery, Little Brown Jug.
You train day in and day out, learning new techniques, approaching new concepts, and living out the thrill of achieving your goals. Building a craft beer is no different. While you spend your hours on the ice, we spend ours here, brewing our trademark beer. Again, again, and again. Here's to pushing the status quo and challenging ourselves to build something memorable. 1919 by Little Brown Jug.
All right, looking forward to a 1919 or two this evening. Don't forget, available in small cans now, which popped by the beer store earlier this week. And the racks are out. You can get the 1919s and generic lager in a mixed pack, or the small 355s in your favorite flavor of Little Brown Jug brew. We're going to hear from Jonathan Toews in just a minute. We did tell you right off the hop that Mark Scheifele and Dylan DeMello are going to be playing in the World Championships. I'll be honest, I'm really disappointed not to hear Gabe Vilardi got an invitation. I think they're missing out. I would love to see Gabe get a chance to do it. I think he had a career year, played the entire season. Would have loved to have seen Gabe get the opportunity. Maybe that still happens. But let's just quickly get to the Scheifele clip. This is 9. Mark Scheifele speaking earlier today, talking about heading over to Zurich to wear the red and white.
Mark, could more hockey be on the horizon for you? Have you heard anything about the Worlds yet?
Yeah, I am going.
Oh, awesome. What's that going to be like? I mean, we know disappointment. Obviously, you didn't get overlooked for the Olympics, but to go compete, wear the maple leaf and compete for your country, and I imagine they're going to have a pretty good team over there too, with teams that didn't make the playoffs. So what's that going to be like?
Yeah, I'm really excited for it. It's any chance you have the opportunity to compete for your country, you got to take it with honor, and I'm just excited to play hockey. play more hockey. I love this game. I love playing. I love competing. And I want to go over there and win a gold medal and do that with some good friends. So I'm really excited for that opportunity.
Yeah, he's not the only Canadian center booked today. It sounds like Ryan O'Reilly and John Tavares will also be part of Canada's team at the World Championships. And of course, we just talked to Kevin. He and Dan will be heading out there in early May to do broadcasting. Very busy broadcasting schedule for those guys, but I imagine they'll hopefully have a chance to have a little fun in Switzerland. Looks like an amazing place to go and visit. We spoke a lot about Jonathan Toews this season. He came in, was the second-line center to begin the season. It did not go well. Obviously, the team struggled throughout that period as well. Did certainly have some good stretches, but probably not what he was expecting or hoping for when he came back this year in Winnipeg. Toews was someone that I was paying close attention to last night. I'll touch on that in a minute, but first off, here's Jonathan Toews just speaking about his return and his season with the Winnipeg Jets.
I think if I'm being honest with myself and I look back to a couple of years ago where I was at, it definitely feels like a huge accomplishment. I'm very proud that I went after it and did what I could to get back to this level and to play in the NHL again. So that being said, I think there was parts of my game that really struggled early on. And then you definitely realize that all these young guys in the league nowadays, the amount of time they're on the ice, the amount of time that they dedicate to watching video and skill work and all the things that make the game so good and so fast nowadays. They're out there getting better every single day, and every day that you're not on the ice, you're kind of getting behind. So, even with that, I think the one thing I really struggled with was the speed and playing fast with energy every night. And I think it was a challenging year for everyone in the league with the schedule. So that, including that, it's not easy for everyone, especially given the fact that I hadn't been playing for quite a while. So. To answer your question, I'm super happy and proud that I went after the dream of playing the NHL again. But at the same time, you have expectations in your mind of what kind of player you can be and how you want to contribute to your team. And obviously, I wasn't anywhere close to that, unfortunately. But it's disappointing, and sometimes you feel like you want to be given more and helping your team. Obviously, we need more help at center this year, and our team went through a lot of injuries as well. But so it's just the kind of the way things went. So it is what it is at this point.
All right, so there's Jonathan Toews kind of reflecting on the season overall. Now, listen, we've talked a lot about this over the last bit. I've talked to Ken and Murat, and I know that it seems like the consensus is that he was coming back to not just play 1 year. I keep going back to my takes a year ago at this time, or well, not quite a year ago, but in the summer when this seemed to be a possibility. And Toews signed with the Winnipeg Jets. And part of the reason why I thought that he probably gets the chance to be the number 2 center, certainly lack of another obvious option was at the top of that list. And part of the reason of the optimism of him coming back was that I really did not think that a player like that, with his resume, who's accomplished as much as he was just coming back to be a guy. The standard that he set for so long in the National Hockey League, I really believe the competitor in him was coming back to be a real difference maker, to not be a guy that was on the fourth line sometimes. And obviously that's the way that it ended up. So last night, I spent some time really focusing, especially at the end of the game, on Jonathan Toews. And if you're at the game, you notice that he spent a little longer time out on the ice last night. Went and had a few hugs with a few players, Cole Perfetti notably at the end. and took a few moments at the end and was the last member of the Winnipeg Jets off the ice. Take that for what it's worth. But as I was watching that, thinking about the season, thinking about, the player and the person that he is and what he was trying to do coming back, I don't think it was just to say, hey, I made it back and I played a game. And it's incredible that he never missed a game all season long. But I don't know. I left the building last night feeling, and I think even more so after hearing that it might be just 1 year with the Winnipeg Jets. Now, here's Toews more on yesterday, the finale of the season, and Toews on taking in yesterday's game.
I've been saying it all along, I'm just taking it one day at a time and trying to enjoy it, even when it's not going great, you're not feeling great, and take the good with the bad, and that's part of being an NHL hockey player. And again, I'm so grateful to this organization and to Mark and Chevy and the coaching staff and the boys in the locker room for making me feel at home here, and the fans, the city of Winnipeg. It's been so special. Obviously, we fell short of our goal, and this time last year, thinking about playing hockey and gearing up to try and make a comeback. Obviously, I was dreaming of playing in front of a whiteout, and been dreaming about that since I was a kid, and unfortunately, it didn't work out that way. So, I think yesterday in a moment like that, just trying to soak it in, even warm-ups before the game, and you always got to think, you never know when if your next game is going to be your last, and I'm at that point in my career where it's a possibility, and not too happy about how the game went, obviously, but definitely appreciative for all of it.
So there's a little bit more from Jonathan Toews, and there was obviously questions about, does he know what he's going to be doing next? Will he play? Will he attempt to continue? And I think that's a decision to get to after a little bit of reflection on the season. But he was asked if moving forward it's Winnipeg or bust.
If you do come back, it's Winnipeg or bust, essentially, that you're not interested in going to another new hockey home?
I mean, 100%. If they'll have me, but I really loved being part of this locker room this year, and that being said, if I decide to play next year, then I'd love to be part of this group again, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it.
So you're not sure yet if you want to play next year, is that fair to say?
Yeah.
What's going to be the factors that you weigh in that decision?
That's a good question. I don't really have much of an answer to that one right now.
All right, so there's Jonathan Toews. What did you think of that, Remo? You just heard it. And let us know your thoughts in the chat right now after that. By the way, thanks to T. Konopoli for that nice super chat. Congrats to Ty Bauer and his awards for community work and fan fave. Go Moose. Jets philosophy has to change, and so should management. Thanks for the season. Fire Chevy. Elgersma time arrives. Go Blue. Got a lot in there, T. Konopoli. Thank you. Remo, what do you think? What was your reaction from just hearing Jonathan Toews speak, considering the season that he just had and the journey to get here?
Yeah, I really appreciate the honest reflection that he gave in that first answer. If he feels accomplished for coming back and playing, and on one hand, yeah, he said he did feel accomplished, but on the other hand, he's established a pretty high level for himself of what he's able to do in the National Hockey League, and he acknowledged that he's not really at that level this year. And when you look back on the season and just the way that the team wrote him as second line center early, maybe that was, I don't know, a bit ambitious for them. But for him, it seems like there was some reflecting, that he was last on the ice, as you noted, after the game. Maybe this is it for him. He came, proved to himself he was able to do it, but acknowledges that, hey, if he wants to play, he wants to be able to play up to his ability. And you do see players like Anze Kopitar. He was a top line guy for LA this year. Well, they're still playing. They're in the playoffs. But I'm curious. I think he could be an effective fourth line player. I think of Eric Stahl in Montreal when they went to the Cup final. Maybe not an everyday player, but a guy who can come in from game to game, win you some key faceoffs like he did this year. But when you talk about team speed and the Jets lacking that, he was certainly a contributor to that.
Yeah, I mean, listen, first I'll say I'm happy that he decided to come back. I think it was, special for fans and Winnipeg hockey fans to get him to see him play as a Winnipeg Jet this year. And I really do hope that this decision, because it's very clear from what he said, not happy with the way that he played. Obviously, probably feeling some responsibility for the fact that this team is where they are right now, considering where they were last season. But after listening to that, I really hope takes, a few weeks, a long period of time away, and then dials it back up and says, okay, is this something that I want to do? Because I do, there is hope for me that, with a really strong year after playing the season, hearing what he just had to say, like the determination that he had, and knowing what is expected and where this league is right now after playing at it, that if he did come back, knowing that the role would be different, you're not going into the top 6 right off the bat, he could be a player that could help the team in particular ways and would be an incredible resource for hopefully some young guys that are starting to get their feet wet, if you will, in the NHL. Like, there's lots of benefits to having Jonathan Toews as a Jet, but I think the expectations would need to be a little bit more realistic. And let's face it, as I said earlier, like, I don't think this is what he came back to be, but he was an incredible teammate down the road. Like, there was never any complaining. He always did what was asked of him, even if that was playing a fourth line role. And if that's the case, I do think that there still would be a window to have him around and help in a number of ways with the organization. But I have to admit, even more so than I felt going into last game, after watching the end, after hearing what he had to say, if I had to bet one way or the other, I think I'd probably be leaning more towards the end of a Hall of Fame career than a continuing it. But I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah, and just looking at the salary, he got a $2 million base salary this year with $5 million performance bonus. If he were to come back, it would have to be much less. And, would he be willing to do that? Would he be willing to take a lesser role? And does the team even need him? Would they want to have a speedier guy? You saw Danny Jilkin come in. He certainly brought some speed, was effective. How are they going to want to build this roster? I mean, you had on forward, Nyquist, Nemestikov, Niederreiter, Toews. That's 4 guys who are really, are not they're not burners. They're not known for their speed. And, the Jets needed more speed on their team. So I don't think it would work if you were going to have all of them. And we can pretty much guarantee Gus Nyquist won't be returning as a UFA. So, and the other 2 guys are under contract in Nemestikov and Niederreiter. And I do wonder, I'm kind of switching gears. I do wonder what kind of player we'll get from Niederreiter. I'm curious to see what he's going to look like in the Worlds, as, he was not 100% throughout the year. Did take time off for surgery, and you wonder how much that affected him, and would the Jets have been better off, playing someone else. But we're talking about Jonathan Toews right now, and I'm spilling into other veterans.
Yeah, well, I mean, listen, we're going to be hitting them all. But, everybody just can't be back if you want to have a different team and a different result next year. And, to me, Vlad and Nino, both who are underwhelming this year, they're on, they've got one more year. I'm not sure what the market for those players would be. Maybe you're keeping them around and maybe they're dealt at the deadline. But, again, then they're still taking up spots. Like just from last night's lineup, there was no Morgan Barron. There was no Alex Iafallo up front. I have no doubt that those players will be there. I think most people hope that Cole Koepke is returning to the club. So where is there a spot for a Brad Lambert, for an Isaac Rosine, depending on what happens with it? So it's there's definitely a lot to chew on when it comes to this. And Kevin Cheveldayoff will speak on Monday, and we'll hear more from him. We're going to get Pat and Jake on with us in just a couple of minutes. Cole Perfetti did speak today. Let's just quickly get to a little bit of Cole here. This is number 4, Remo. Obviously started off with it being injured. Took a while to get back. Here's Cole reflecting on his season and his upcoming RFA status.
Yeah, it was, obviously not the season we wanted individually or as a team. It's, every time you don't make the playoffs, it feels like a failure and a wasted season. And, it sucks to be cleaning out our stalls right now. It's, you want to keep playing. You want to be, we were wishing we were on a plane right now or getting ready for a game tomorrow. So it's tough. It sucks. I mean, no one wants to go through this, but hopefully we use this as motivation for the summer, and we can all come back, bigger, faster, stronger, and really take it to heart what happened this season and make sure that this doesn't happen again. So, it was there was a lot of ups and downs, but I'm proud of this group, and we didn't quit. Even coming out of the Olympic break, we were a ways out of it, but we didn't quit. We still fought and tried our best to get our way back into the race, and I thought we did a pretty good job for most of it. So it's obviously upsetting, but only 16 teams make it, so we're gonna make sure that we do everything that we can this summer to make sure we're one of those teams next year.
And having gone through the RFA process just a couple of years ago and how it went, is there anything you'd like to do differently? I know players leave it up to their agents, but you do have some input on that, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, only going through it once, and it was, but I didn't really know what to expect. So, got a little bit more knowledge on how it works this year, and a couple years older. So it's, it'll be interesting. We'll see what happens. Obviously, I think both sides go, home and think about it and think what's till the time's right, and we'll see what happens. I honestly, I have no idea what's going to happen. So I'm, obviously excited to get those talks going whenever the time is. But for right now, yeah, just gonna go home and let the body relax a little bit, and then get to work right away and get back in the gym and start focusing on next year. And whenever those talks begin to happen, they will. And again, not too familiar with the situation, but obviously got a great support group, great agent group, and I'm looking forward to having those conversations.
All right, there is Cole Perfetti. Now, Remo, I don't know if you want to open up marbles because it's about that time, and I know people are already getting antsy. No Hacksaw today. He's going to join us coming up probably earlier next week because the NFL draft is next week, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So we may even double up on Hacksaw, do something a little before the draft, and then get him in on Friday. But we are going to bring in Jake Bolin Moss right now. We want to take a look at some of the lines now that we have all of our playoff matchups set and a couple of our favorites. I also did cook up something for the Western Conference now that everything is set. But just as we bring in Jake, do want to congratulate Mark Mfanasuk, longtime lock shopper, longtime Coolbetter. Mark is fired up for the fights, and Mark, I got good news. You are the winner of the contest we've been running all week. So check your email. Uncle Patty's going to be sending you over those tickets. I will be there as well. If you see me, make sure to say hi. Would love to meet you in person for fight night tomorrow at Canada Life Center. Mike Malott, brother of former Moose and Jet Jeff Malott, in the main event. Just before we bring in Jake, got to remind you that we are fired up. I mentioned the Aikens guys. We're getting all those batteries from Manitoba Battery. Aikens Lake is ready to get going in just a couple weeks. If you are thinking about a world-class fly-in fishing experience where you can be on the water in less than 2 hours from the city of Winnipeg, Aikens is the spot. And as great as the world-class fishing is, the world-class hospitality, even better. Check out aikenslake.com today for more information on booking options and availability for the 26 fishing season. I just confirmed getting out there early this year. End of May. Won't be any playoff action just before the Bombers get going. So really, really excited for that. And one other thing to do, a little Breezy Bend golf report for our friends at Breezy. We're a couple weeks away from swinging it at Breezy Bend this year. If you are thinking about a long-term golfing home for you and your family at one of Winnipeg's top private courses, Breezy Bend is the spot. Check out breezybend.ca for more information or give Corey Johnson a call on membership options going forward. The leaderboard looks like this. Former winner Matty Fitzpatrick with a 63 8 under today. He is in the clubhouse at 14 under. I got a live one. I'm on Victor Hovland at 31-1 at Coolbet. Vic is 4 under through 11. He's tied with Ludwig Oberg, 3 shots back of Matt Fitzpatrick. Pat Cantlay, who's automatic at this course, was 7 under today. He's 9 under. Ricky Fowler in the top 10. Keegan Bradley, Siwoo Kim. Scotty Scheffler, 7 under par. And top Canadian is Corey Connors, who is 6 under. For our pal Sudarshan, we got to check on him. How about Sudarshan? Tough round yesterday, 74. Bounces back with the 66. The Sudarshan tracker is going to love that. He's at 2 under, tied for 45th. Shout out to our friends at Breezy, and let's see if we can get a win at the RBC Heritage tonight. All right, let's get Jake in here before we get to some marbles action, because we got playoff matchups set. Unfortunately for Jet fans and Leaf fans, we're focused on May 5th and the draft lottery, Jake. But tell you what, I'm pretty fired up for the playoffs to get going tomorrow now that we rinse the taste of our respective seasons out of the mouths. What's going on? How are you? And how happy are you that Leaf season is over?
Yeah, I mean, this Leaf season, I'm pretty thrilled that it's over. It wasn't one to remember, I'd say. We'll see what happens with upper management and then how it all shapes up from there. I imagine, they get a new GM in there. I think they probably will do president of hockey ops as well. Matt Sundin was there today to talk, and he possibly might take on some sort of role in the hockey ops area. I don't know. We'll see what's going on with the Leafs and the Jets. But yeah, we're focusing on the draft lottery. Just hoping the Leafs can keep their pick in the top 5. I'm really not worried about trying to win the lottery. It's just a matter of having their top 5 pick, possibly getting a guy who can come in and make an impact next season. And hopefully it's a one-off. I think, they probably feel very similar in Jets Nation that this is just a one-off season and the team will be back. But nothing's guaranteed in the league like the NHL, and that's what makes it so fascinating and so interesting to follow.
Well, especially in the East. I mean, there's 6 teams that were pick'ems or plus money to make the playoffs that are in the playoffs. I mean, only Tampa and Carolina of the group that are going to be competing for the Cup were really minus numbers going in, which has made it so much. So, I mean, you can turn things around, but both of these teams have major issues. And I'm sure you're almost bracing yourself for the inevitability that a team like the Jets, or dare I say the Panthers, moves up in the lottery and pushes the Leafs from 5 to 6, and Boston makes that pick at 6th overall.
Oh, absolutely, Huss. It's the most Leafy thing of all time. And if you look at the standings, I know, things can shape out differently as games go on. If the Leafs ended up with one less point, they'd be in the top 3 spot and they'd be just fine. They'd have their top 5 pick and they wouldn't even have to worry. The fact that they ended up with 78 points, the Rangers and Flames ended up with 77. They would have lost both tiebreakers to those teams and been in the 3rd last slot. They're in the 5th last slot. If anyone jumps below 5th, in the 6, 7, 8, whatever it ends up being, and jumps the Leafs, they're down. Boston has their pick. It'll be the most Leafy thing of all time if one of these teams jumps them. So I've prepared already. I know what's coming.
I don't want to pour salt in the wounds, but if we could get a number on that to happen up at Coolbet, I would appreciate it, and I'm sure many people would. Let's get to it. Here we have it, and Remo, we'll get your thoughts on your favorite couple of series picks as well. Here's what we've got for the series prices for the Stanley Cup playoffs. Boston and Buffalo. Buffalo minus 175. Bruins plus 144. Senators and Hurricanes. This one opened up as Ottawa plus 150. Ottawa's now down to plus 145. Still an underdog, but certainly not as big as many of the others going up against top teams. Carolina minus 175. And by the way, if you go through all these, there's all sorts of props for them all, like points, over-unders for players in the series, head-to-heads, like Aho versus Kachuk. If you do want to get some fun series bets, there is so much up right now for pretty much all the series. Colorado and the Kings. This is the most lopsided one. Colorado minus 526 and the Kings plus 390. Dallas and Minnesota. This number has not moved since it dropped. Dallas minus 116, Minnesota minus 104. We still don't know about Rupee Hintz or Miro Heiskanen. And if those guys are not in, to me, Minnesota is live to win this series. I think they're live even if those guys do play. But to be honest, if that happens, I think you're going to see a big line movement. So if you're not expecting Rupee Hintz or Miro Heiskanen, now might be a good time to get the Minnesota Wild at minus 104. Ducks and Oilers. Edmonton minus 238. Anaheim plus 195. Philly, Pittsburgh. This one's been steady all week long. Pittsburgh at minus 152. Philly plus 125. And then we move on to Tampa and Montreal. This should be an absolute beauty series. Tampa minus 250. Habs plus 200 for that series. And the final one, Vegas and Utah. Utah making it for the first time as the Mammoth. Vegas minus 189 and Utah plus 154. Jake, before we make our favorite conference final or cup pick, if you're going to make two wagers on the first round of the playoffs, who's getting your scratch?
Yeah, I mean, Huss, I think you kind of went over. I love the Wild. I think that's a nice value there, considering, the injuries in Dallas right now. A team that's kind of gone all in, push their chips in the middle and say, hey, we're going to go get Quinn Hughes and we're going to go make this roster. We're going to bolster this roster even bigger than it already is. I think the Wild is a very underrated team. The other one I don't mind, Huss. And listen, I'm not a Habs fan by any means. I hate the Montreal Canadiens, but I think there's some really good value in the Canadiens at plus 200. Like, this team, they don't know what they don't know, right? Like Tampa, obviously you can look at that team and say, hey, Tampa, they've got the pedigree. They've been here before. They've won cups. A lot of this core, including John Cooper, is still there. But you look at the Montreal Canadiens, they're, I think the one concern with them is going to be goaltending, when it comes to the playoffs, and who's going to be that guy who steps in and steps up. But at plus 200, I'm pretty shocked that's the number for the Montreal Canadiens in a best-of-7 series. I think the young talent's very impressive. A lot of these guys taking big steps this year. Cole Caulfield second in the Rocket Richard race. Nick Suzuki, 100-point season. Like, these are some pretty impressive guys, all taking steps at the right time. And like I said, they don't know what they don't know. A young team coming in absolutely has an opportunity to take a run at Tampa. I think the value is really nice there with the Habs. So Wild and Habs probably my two that I'd look at, and that's one from the East and the West.
Yeah, nicely done. I mean, on my side of things, I certainly I just can't bring myself to support the Wild. It's one of those things where I think it's a great play, but it's just the thought of it happening. We've talked a lot about Ottawa plus 145. You want a bigger underdog that I think is really live in a series. Ottawa would be that. I love Pittsburgh at minus 152. And then in the other two that I think are somewhat locks are Colorado and Edmonton. I think that if you're going to play those, you have to think about a shorter series. So like Edmonton minus 1.5. Colorado, I could actually even see 2.5. I mean, can you see the Kings winning 2 games in this series? I have a tough time playing that. And actually, I did put together an exclusive, which is up right now, that I really do like. It's Edmonton minus 1.5 against the Ducks. So Edmonton in 6 or less. Colorado minus 1.5 against the Kings. Colorado in 6 or less. And Vegas and Utah over 5.5 games. So the Vegas-Utah series to go to at least 6, go to 6 or 7. We got a nice boost on that one. It was, I think when I put it in at Coolbet, it was about plus 353. It's at plus 405 under the Winnipeg Sports Talk parlay. And then, of course, Pat and I had one from the East that is up right now in the combo cards. Philly, Pittsburgh. We've got Pittsburgh winning. We're going to take a swing on Ottawa to beat the Canes, and the Buffalo Sabres to beat the Boston Bruins. That has got a nice boost from plus 539 to plus 617. Remo, quickly on you, what favorite 2 teams to ride with in the first round?
Yeah, I'm liking Well, of course, Colorado is the biggest favorite. I do like them. I like Tampa as well. I can see Minnesota without, those guys to start. Edmonton over Anaheim. I like a lot of the favorites. Pittsburgh, the one underdog that I would bet on, Utah, I like over Vegas. A lot of questions for them. So I had to pick an underdog. I'm taking Utah, but primarily the favorite. So I'm with you in the Edmonton and Colorado making work of
well, you should jump on that exclusive then, because even if Utah wins, I don't think they're doing it in 5 games.
No, I agree. I like what you have set up there. Although maybe Anaheim pushes them, but is Draisaitl's coming back, correct? Like, what's going on there?
That is the expectation. I mean, maybe it's not for game 1, but I mean, the guy played in the playoffs on a high ankle sprain before. If it gets down to it, like, they're not going out without seeing Leon Draisaitl. Here are your cup odds right now as we get into the final 16. Avalanche plus 360, Tampa Bay plus 480, Carolina 6-1, Vegas 11-1, Oilers 12-1, Dallas 13-1, Sens 14-1, Minnesota and Buffalo 15-1, the Habs at 19-1, Pittsburgh 22, Boston 27, Philly 30, Anaheim 35, the Kings and the Utah Mammoth at 50-1. Jake, cup winner or one of the conference picks? Anything jump out at you?
Well, listen, Huss, I mean, we just got finished talking about what an awful year it's been for the Leafs. No better way to cap that off than with a 12-1 ticket on the Vegas Golden Knights. I think that's probably where my card would start. Mitch Marner goes on to win a Stanley Cup with a different team. Come on, like, that would be like, I've seen all the people in the chat already being like, I want the Jets to jump the Leafs and ruin their pick, and everyone's very mean today for a Friday.
No, we just want the number 1 or 2 pick. It has nothing to do with the Leafs.
Sure, yeah. That's not what people were saying in the chat. So, I mean, if you want to start there being a Leafs hater, Vegas is a great call. Move a little further down the board. I mean, I don't know. I made this bet on my own, just kind of out of my heart. I'd love to see Sid take the boys on another run and get all the way there. I mean, you think about Pittsburgh, right? They're 14-1 to win the East. They do have the easier draw when you look at it, right? You play Philly. If you can get past them, you're probably going to get Ottawa or Carolina. Listen, I know Carolina statistically and all the metrics say Carolina's awesome. The team can't win the time when it comes to the Eastern Conference Final. If Pitt can get past them, you're only going to have to play one of Tampa or Buffalo or Montreal, whoever it ends up being. I think it's pretty good value on the Pittsburgh Penguins. Sid to go on one more run. Been there, done that for old Sidney Crosby. So that's probably the other guy I'd get behind. Eastern Conference, and then maybe the Cup, 22-1. A little sprinkle on that as well.
Jake, great stuff. I'm with you. Listen, I'm actually, and I don't know, maybe it was, I just got a little locked into Connor McDavid's interview yesterday afterwards, but I do think the Edmonton Oilers are alive, and I know they've got a lot of flaws in that team. Can they get a save? We will see. But, man, it feels like he's on a mission. The Florida Panthers are out. Now, getting through that third round, if they're lucky enough to get out of the Pacific, is going to be an issue. But I really do wonder what's going to be left of the Central Division winner after going through 2 very tough rounds, certainly if it's Dallas or Minnesota. So I'm going to put along that, but we're going to ride with you on that East pick in Pittsburgh. 14-1. They could, like, if Ottawa wins, you could see them play Pittsburgh, Ottawa, and I do think that Montreal and Buffalo are both live on the other side as well. So it might not be having to go through the Tampa Bay Lightning. Folks, it is all up at Coolbet right now. Get them in before things start tomorrow. Games for tomorrow, we've got Ottawa plus 125 in Carolina. That's the early game. You knew that Sens Hurricanes was going to be the equivalent of the annual Texans game in the wild card matchup. That was going to be the early game on Saturday. Wild Stars, Minnesota even money, Dallas minus 118, and Pittsburgh minus 142, Flyers plus 121 for tomorrow's first 3 games of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Congratulations again to Mark Amp, who was our winner of the tickets. Maybe we'll see you tomorrow night at the UFC fights. And Jake, have yourself a great weekend and enjoy the start of the Stanley Cup playoffs. We'll catch up next week for the NFL draft.
Yeah, thanks. I'll shout out Mark A. I think Patty sent those tickets over, so they should be in your email inbox. Enjoy the fights this weekend, boys. Enjoy the NHL hockey, and we'll chat again next week.
Mike Malott, minus 270. I'll be on that. I'll put together a couple parlays as well for it as well. Thanks so much. All right, there's Jake Bolin Moss of Coolbet. All right, guys, last call for marbles. I think we may be going a little long today, though.
Yeah, I just texted Connor. He's going to look for a spot.
Okay, excellent. Like, gang, I don't know. I'm sure people in the chat maybe have been watching. Maybe if you're not paying attention to the chat. This is from Mike McIntyre. Connor Hellebuyck just gave an incredibly raw and emotional year-end interview with us that will not in any way cool off chatter about him possibly wanting out of the Jets. It was quite something and incredibly revealing. Full story coming in the Winnipeg Free Press. And then Mike adds, quick summary. Connor Hellebuyck fired all kinds of shots at the state of the Jets and how it's difficult for him to see an easy way out of this mess. When I asked if this would cause him to reconsider his future, there was an extremely long pause. Wow. We'll get Connor on in just a minute, who was there. But Reem, just listening to that, listen, we've talked a lot about, well, and we've behind the scenes kicked around, what would a Detroit give up for a Connor and Connor package? I mean, just, fun hockey talk, but it didn't really seem like at all realistic. That changes in a second if there is an understanding that maybe one of or more of the players want out. And I got to tell you, we haven't heard this yet. We're just reading it. Connor was there. He's going to join us in just a moment. But if all of a sudden that is on the table, you might have an unhappy 3-time Vezina and 1-time Hart Trophy winner. All of a sudden that makes the this offseason potentially even wilder.
Yeah, well, when you think of the Winnipeg Jets and making trades, which player is going to have the most value? It's going to be the reigning Hart Trophy winner, the multiple Vezina Trophy winner, the guy who just carried Team USA to a gold medal. And on the other side, you've seen other teams go in playoffs with, no-name goaltenders. Who was Darcy Kemper in Colorado? Aiden Hill just had a terrible season for Vegas. And if the Jets are confident in Wade Flaherty, they've had backups. Eric Comrie, Lauren Brossoit have pretty good seasons. Could you find a cheap tandem to do that? Well, trading Connor Hellebuyck, I'm sure you could get a haul of young players, could be an option if he's a guy who doesn't believe in management here. And from what he said, I will bring in Connor right now. What is quote that Connor tweeted out? Complacency is not going to get us moving forward. Something's got to happen. To just put that same product on the ice, I don't think it worked for a reason. And during that 11-game losing streak, I think there was complacency. They just put the same product on the ice out over and over and kept losing by a goal until they finally snapped it. So, it's nice. You like to hear that honesty from the players. I'm sure there was a lot of frustration from them. We played the clip of Velarde saying Lambert and Salmonson gave them a boost, which everyone saw. It's been a tough look here for Jets management following a very, very disappointing season.
Let's bring in our Jets reporter and member of the squad, Connor Rabchak, who's been down getting audio and talking to us. Remo, you're going to need to unmute him as we bring him in. Connor, thanks for jumping on. Listen, we'll get
in a corner. Oh wait, I have echoing here.
No, you sound fine.
Okay.
Are you echoing on your end?
No, I'm good.
Okay, perfect.
Sorry.
So, Connor, listen, we'll just cut right to it, and we'll have lots of time next week to kind of go over everything. I mean, you were there. What What was your reaction from what you heard come out of the mouth of the Jets goaltender, Connor Hellebuyck?
Very interesting. Very, very interesting, Huss. And I mean, the quotes are the quotes. And look, like sometimes you need to listen to them. And when we get the clips up and you guys can play them, we'll play them Sunday live. You'll play them next week. Like the quotes are damning. The way he said them, also damning. Mike McIntyre posed a great question, and one that I think is on a lot of people's minds. Connor Hellebuyck signed up here with the intention of competing year in and year out. That was part of the promise, right? To Scheifele and Hellebuyck, they signed the matching extension. So Mike asked what I thought was a great question where, yeah, I mean, how after this year are you going to maintain that promise? Or have you lost faith in that? Or do you have to reevaluate? And Connor Hellebuyck paused for about 10 seconds, dead silence in that room, took a deep breath, and then answered the question and just kind of tap danced around it the whole time. Again, he didn't say yes or no or really anything along those lines, but the quotes we have on the screen here, Murat asked him a question, okay, you want to get back to this level. This is where you're at. How can Winnipeg achieve that? And these are the two quotes that stood out to me big time. Complacency is not going to get us moving forward. Something's got to happen. And then he ended off his presser. That last quote was to end off the press conference. He goes, to just put that same product on the ice, I don't think it worked for a reason. So, I mean, pretty damning stuff and pretty much a shot. He started this answer, by the way, with saying that's a great question for Chevy. And this is a shot at Chevy, I think, entirely. Like, complacency is not going to get us anywhere. Something's got to happen to put that same product on the ice, all of that stuff. He's kind of spurring or hoping for action from the Winnipeg Jets this summer because he did sign up here to compete year in and year out, and they didn't do that this year.
Yeah, I mean, all that being said, he didn't have a good year.
And he admitted that.
Yeah, okay.
I'll say that. He did admit that. He said he's a part of the problem. He absolutely takes some of the blame. But then in that same answer, he said, well, I won a gold medal this year. And I didn't think my play dipped that much coming out of my knee surgery. But yeah, I could have been better. But he mentioned that there were a lot of tipped and screen goals this year, which he says all the time are out of his control. So he's kind of playing both sides of that. He did say at one point, yeah, it's on me. I'm part of this team and I can be better as well. But then followed that up by saying, well, I won a gold medal and I was fine. And after my knee surgery, I felt my game was good. So he's kind of playing both sides of that. But he did throw that out there. He snuck it in there. Let's leave it at that.
Listen, we've got the audio. Marbles is still open. Marbles is going to be a little late because we're going to play Connor Hellebuyck. Remo, let's just play the entire thing. Like, I think people will want to listen to all of it, and it was there. So we'll get that ready, and then as soon as the Hellebuyck audio is done, we'll finish it up and do the marble race. Obviously, and listen, I'm kind of like finding out all this in real time as we do the show live. But Connor, I'm sure you agree. I mean, like, there was the thought that everything is going to go forward. You've got this core and they got to figure some things out. Everything changes if all of a sudden one or more of those players seemingly feel the way it certainly seems from what you're telling us that where Connor Hellebuyck's at after this disappointing season.
Totally, Huss. And a part of that is the promise that was made to him, or the promise that was made to this group, that they're going to compete year in and year out. And that's part of why he signed here and all of this stuff. And Sean Reynolds, I'm trying to get the quote here as you're mentioning, asked him, because Connor Hellebuyck's first two answers weren't very optimistic. You know, he came in and said it was a bad year, all of this stuff. And he's not just, a lot of the guys we heard from today said, you know, this is a one-off year. We believe in this team, et cetera, et cetera. And you could tell immediately that wasn't the tone we were getting from Connor Hellebuyck. And Sean Reynolds goes, well, to me, it doesn't sound like you're overly optimistic. Am I getting that wrong? Again, another like 5 to 10 second deep sigh, long pause. And then he goes, it's hard. This is hard for any athlete that doesn't make the playoffs. All of a sudden you come over here and say, oh yeah, we're going to be amazing after we just did that. That's not how it works. It takes time. It takes time to erase the memory. It takes time to break everything down in your mind and what just happened. So it was a Connor Hellebuyck presser where a lot of the times you get him post game or something. He says he likes his game. He absolutely had that element to it, but there was a lot of thoughtfulness put into these comments, I think. And I think that was represented with the pauses after he was asked about his future, asked about the Winnipeg Jets and how they can get back to being a good team next year, asked about the optimism, where I felt exactly what Sean Reynolds was feeling, where it didn't sound like he was being very optimistic. Like all the guys we heard from today, oh, it's fine, we'll be right back next year, this is just a one-off. He didn't come up with that same attitude, really, and admitted that it's hard, and it's hard to find the optimism right now. And if you have a Hart-level, Vezina-level goaltender that's finding it hard to find that optimism with this group and is saying, something needs to change, things need to happen, that is a pretty damning way to go out on the last interview of the end of season avails today.
We're about to play this here with Helly's bit, but I'm going to walk something back that I said earlier the show today and something earlier in the week that I really did think going into this before this conversation, that to me, next season and Josh Morrissey is sort of the linchpin of all of this. Because, of course, Josh has 2 more years, would be going into the year where he could extend, and if too great of a piece to, if he's not extending, not to trade. This may have just put all of this into warp speed, because I'm telling you right now, if Connor Hellebuyck is hoping to be elsewhere next year, not only is that a huge piece that would be a massive trade, you also wonder, Connor, what that does to the feelings of other players that have committed to Winnipeg long term.
Absolutely. He is the baseline. He's the floor raiser of this group. He's the ceiling raiser. He is why the Winnipeg Jets, he's their MVP, right? Like, that is absolutely it. And every single player today, we heard from about 8 of them, was posed the question, after a year like this, coming off the President's Trophy, do you still have the belief in the group, in the core, that you can get back to 2024-25 Winnipeg Jets hockey, win a President's Trophy, get back to the playoffs, et cetera, et cetera? And again, everyone said, yeah, it's going to take some things, but yeah, I believe in this group. I think we have a lot of great players. Some people mentioned Hellebuyck, of course, as they would. He's the star goaltender of this team. Connor Hellebuyck gets posed that question about optimism and goes, it's hard because we missed the playoffs and we were awful this year. So how am I going to sit here and say, yeah, we'll be fine next year? And then ends off his press conference by saying something needs to change. You can't just put the same product on the ice. So I think when Connor Hellebuyck speaks, that this front office is going to listen to us. So I know we're previewing this offseason and we're expecting it to be a big one for the Winnipeg Jets one way or the other. This might force their hand to do something drastic in the way of getting the Winnipeg Jets back to competing, because, if Connor Hellebuyck went up there and did what everyone else did, and yeah, we'll be fine, this core is good, we have the belief, we just did it last year, we have the belief we can get to a playoff team. If he did that, then it's like, oh, okay, yeah, we can just run this thing back and be fine. But your MVP, your player, your franchise star goaltender is saying something needs to change. You can't just put the same product on the ice. That is going to be probably question number 1 to Kevin Sawyer on Monday when he does his end of season media avail, because I think that is something that is, going to send a message to the management group.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I normally you'd be like, hey, tell us about the season and all of that. That might be the first thing that Chevy gets hit with on
Yes,
Monday.
I think
hey,
so.
What was your reaction to what Connor Hellebuyck had to say? Connor, great stuff. We'll look forward to, I know you'll have much more on WST Sunday Live coming up Sunday morning, 9 a.m. Make sure to tune in for that. And, of course, we'll have to have you on Monday when we are expecting to hear from both Scott Arniel and Kevin Sawyer. We'll have that for you all on Winnipeg Sports Talk, and we'll have the whole gang in to talk all about it. Connor, have a great weekend. Looking forward to the show. Thanks for jumping on today.
Yeah, no problem, guys. Get to this Helly stuff. It's worth it.
All right. Yeah, listen, again, Marbles is going to have to wait when the former Hart Trophy and 3-time Vezina winner speaks after a season, from what we're hearing. This is from just moments ago at Canada Life Center, Connor Hellebuyck's end of season media availability.
Connor, we spoke to some guys before they went into their exit meetings, but I think you had yours already now, right? So maybe start with asking you just the tone and the tenure of these meetings. How different is it from maybe years past, and how important are these meetings with coaches and management to I guess, have an open discussion about the state of the team, individual, team, all that sort of thing?
Yeah, I think these meetings are very important. You're looking at the future of the team, and what we did this year is unacceptable, and no one wants to be part of that. And where do we go from here, and what's the next step?
You mentioned the future of the team. You're obviously a huge part of the present and hopefully the future. What do you see the future of this organization, this team looking like, especially after this season?
It's hard. It's hard. Can you get the pieces you need? Will the players come? These are always questions that you have in Winnipeg. You know, I've made it my home and I like it here, but I think majority of the league doesn't feel the same way. You look at your young guys and who's taking a step, who's going to take a big step, and you know that's not my job. My job is to stop the puck and make sure I'm putting my best foot forward. So, you know, for me, it's winning a Stanley Cup. That's my goal, and that's all I have left, and that's what I want in my resume. I don't play this game for the money. I don't play it for the fame. I do it for my own personal fun, and you know, part of that is winning a cup. So, you know, for me, I'm just looking at how can I get that? How can I get there?
And using those standards, you just said how much fun or not fun, I guess, was this season, the Olympics aside and what that brought, but the Winnipeg Jets season for you, I don't imagine was a whole lot of fun, was it?
No. This year was chaos. You know, we came off to a pretty good start. I wouldn't say we were playing great at the start, but we got a good start, and you know, I played good enough to win a gold medal, and I'm telling you, my game wasn't different before or after. I mean, the surgery stunk and all that hard work getting back as quickly as I possibly can. That was a lot, but you know, it's not like I felt my game died off by any means. You know, I thought I kept growing and doing what I do every year and taking small steps forward and, you know, fixing things I need to fix and putting my best foot forward. And you know, the amount of bad bounces we got this year, there was a lot. I don't think this team is deserving of the spot that we're in. We got a lot of bad bounces, but we also created a lot of our own bad luck. Gave us some bad bounces, you know, played loose, tips and screens. Like, I must be up there at the top of the league for tips and screen goals against. And, you know, those are things you can't control. Every year I look at all my goals against and try to break down and what I'm doing this summer, and you know, try to fix some details, bring some new details in, and you know, those are the two places that I have identified that I have no control over, are tips and screens. And no matter how much you can train for tips, you just never know how they're going to tip, and every tip's different, and there's no real read on it. If it hits you, it hits you. So you know, those are the two places that kill you as a goalie.
Connor, maybe you're just being brutally honest, but it sounds to me like you don't seem overly optimistic. Am I getting that wrong going forward?
I mean, in this moment, after going through that, it's hard. It's hard. You know, this is hard for any athlete that doesn't make the playoffs. And you know, the next day, all of a sudden, come over here and say, "Oh, yeah, we're gonna be amazing next year." After we just did that, I mean, that's just not how it works. It takes time. It takes time to erase the memory. It takes time to, you know, kind of just break everything down in your mind and what just happened. And you know, to take the step back that we did this year felt very wrong. Felt from the President's Trophy to this just felt like it should never happen, and it did. And I'm part of it. I'm not saying that I'm not a big part of it too. I am, but you know, when you're looking at the future, it takes time. It takes time to reevaluate those things.
The numbers that we had and we're looking at when you talk about tipped shots and screens, that's what we saw through the numbers, that you were facing a lot of challenges that you maybe hadn't in the past. Did it feel like the team defended differently in front of you this year compared to the last couple of years?
I say it felt like we chased it a little bit. I think there's no secret that we weren't the fastest team in the league, and we were a little bit loose, definitely a little bit loose. It was so many times that we were just caught in the middle, and you know, that screens me. And there's so many goals that I see as a screen, and you know, it might not look like a screen, but it is.
So when you're off at a hair, it's tough like that. And that being said, if you want to break down all these stats, there's a difference between a grade A with a guy on them and some space, and a grade A with space and they're elite shooters. And there's a difference between who's getting the shot. There's a difference of, how much room and space they had to come in from the shot. And, that's why I think the goalie analytics just aren't perfect yet. There's a lot more to the story. Two teams might be able to give up 10 grade A chances, but they're not the same. And they're weighed the same right now, but they shouldn't be. So, you're breaking down things like that, and that's where I like to, and in these moments now I can get analytical, and now I can really look at my game, and I feel like my biggest strength is the reads that I have in the game and the feel that I have of my game. And this year was a lot of screens and a lot of things that happened that I had no control over.
When you re-signed here, you re-signed, and the first thing you said to us is this organization is committed to winning the cup. You've said it over and over again, that's your goal, and that you had a belief. Has that belief been challenged at all by this season?
Yeah, challenge is a great way to put it. It's been challenged. That being said, we still have some very elite players in this room. And I still feel that we're a very good team. And like I said, I don't think we deserve to be where we are. I think there was some bad luck that hit us this year, and maybe some confidence was taking a hit at the wrong times and some injuries at the wrong times. So yeah, it's been challenged, but that's with time everything heals.
Yeah, and on that, Connor, you signed up to be a Winnipeg Jet essentially for life with your extension. Mm-hmm. Some may ask, you're a guy, you'd probably be 31 other teams that would love to have a Connor Hellebuyck on their team. So after a year like this, does it cause you at all to rethink the future? Does it lead to maybe some difficult conversations, that sort of thing?
I don't want to go and leave any speculation. I love this city, and I love playing here, and the fans have given me so much, and I've given so much back to the fans, and there's a real connection there. I wish more people around the league would see that and could see that. Am I going to go and tell you that right now I feel amazing about winning a cup tomorrow? No team out of playoffs is going to say that, and no player out of playoffs is going to say that. But you make your decisions and you live by them, and as time goes by, you try to reevaluate, and then honestly, as an athlete, the only thing you can do is put your best foot forward. You make your decision and put your best foot forward, and that's where my head's at right now. Is I have a nice long summer ahead of me, and I'm going to get some recovery, some much needed recovery. I've played a lot in these recent months, and I'm going to really focus on my game and really break it down and see where I can improve some things. And and being one of the best in the world is something I've always took a stride for, and I want this summer to take another big step forward for that.
If your game depends on sort of your reads and things not being as chaotic in front of you, I imagine that's one of your messages in your exit meetings and things like that. So how is Winnipeg meant to maybe make your life a little bit more predictable? Is it the standards of the guys who played? Is it that they actually need to go out there and kind of make a splash or make moves or get those guys that you say not everybody will come?
Yeah, that's a great question for Chevy. It really is. From my perspective, I would like to see. Complacency is just it's not what we're gonna. It's not gonna get us forward. It's not gonna get us moving forward. So something's got to happen. I'm not going to sit here and just throw every guy under the bus, because honestly, I'm a goalie and I know goaltending really well. I can't say, oh, this forward did this and that defense did that. That's not my spot. And I believe in every guy and giving their A+ effort every single night. And that's a lot of times that's all you can ask is give your all every single night. And as a teammate, I can really rally behind that and really cherish those moments with those guys. But, to just put that same product on the ice, I don't think it worked for a reason.
Well then, There's Connor Hellebuyck at the end of 82 games on his way back home. Remo, that was interesting, especially those last couple of answers. And these were some of the ones that, we'd seen the quotes for, but definitely hear it. I mean, this wasn't a guy that was absolving himself of everything, but it's very clear. And I've always said probably my favorite guy to listen to because he's a little quirky, but he's nothing if not honest. And being honest right now with all of you, you listen to that and you do really wonder whether this is just sort of heat of the moment or this has been some frustration that has been building over a season, which they took a major step backwards when the goal was to keep pushing forward and be right there competing for a Stanley Cup.
Yeah, I don't think he said anything that was, I'm not sure, like him saying we can't be complacent and run the same team out there. I mean, that's just stating the obvious there. And I think you like hearing that from a guy who's a leader. It was interesting to hear him say the line that, I like Winnipeg. Winnipeg is my home, but a lot of other people around the league don't see it that way. And we know that it's tough to bring in players in free agency. It just seems like a guy to me who's frustrated about this past season, maybe has, some concerns about, their ability to bounce back from this, but I'm not really sounding like the alarm bells after hearing that or anything. If anyone should be, it should be management saying, hey, we need to put together a team that's going to get back into the playoffs next year, that's going to compete for the Stanley Cup. And I think that's obvious after watching what we just watched this for 82 games this year.
Yeah, I will say this, though. I did take from that he is very unsure about the direction of this team. And if the team continues in that direction, it's probably something that he would like to be elsewhere. And that is, and unfortunately, that is not something that you can just change overnight. Well, it's just adding a lot more juice to what was already going to be a really interesting offseason. And it is officially underway in Winnipeg right now as we hear from members of the Winnipeg Jets. Kevin Sawyer and Scott Arniel are expected to speak on Monday. We will have those comments for you with a number of our regulars joining us on the program. Great to see everyone here. We're over 400 right now in the chat. I know we've usually been well on our way to the weekend right now and into the marble race. Shout out to T. Will for the super chat. If Chevy messed this team up so badly he chases Helly out of town and he isn't fired, I'm becoming a Leafs fan. I know that's an exaggeration. I know T. Will is not going to become a Leafs fan. So let's, well, as I said, it's sort of wild to hear that, and it certainly was, as you'd almost expect from Hellebuyck, as opposed to many of the other players that'll maybe sort of keep their more outspoken statements to themselves. He came out with honesty, and that's what you want to hear from players, albeit that might be quite concerning to members of the Winnipeg Jets fan base. Make sure to join Connor and Liz on Sunday morning at 9 a.m. They'll have much more on this. And then next week will be an interesting one. We'll obviously have all the Stanley Cup playoff action to talk about, but the real action on Winnipeg Sports Talk will be more on the end of the Winnipeg Jets season, heading into the offseason when we hear from head coach Scott Arniel and Kevin Sawyer. Appreciate everyone's patience. Let's fire up a little Tristan Rivers music and get going to be on our way to the weekend. Fight weekend here in Winnipeg with UFC tomorrow. Remo, let's get the Marbles theme song and get on to the weekend on WST.
It's Friday. Another week of work's gone by. You deserve to treat yourself, maybe an ice cream cake or a bottle of rye. You want the whole team, so that's you can't deny. Why use effort even for pleasure? You might like to try. It's time to marble race.
Hey, Derek Schmidt, I saw your wife and your kid at the game last night. Great to see them. I apologize. I love this quote. I guess I have to be an expert like T-Will MB hockey expert to get my little super chat noticed. There was a lot going on, so if I missed it, I apologize, but really do appreciate the support. All right, Remo, let's do this. Something tells me we could just keep talking for 4 more hours tonight, but we've all got things to do. We got a weekend to enjoy. Should be an interesting week next week on WST. I have a feeling this is not going to be like the end of last season where things cool down for a bit. What do we got cooking for the marble race today?
Yeah, one thing that also happened today, Taylor Elgersma spoke to the media. The Bombers have that on their YouTube channel, so we'll get some of that next week.
We'll lean on our pal DC. Maybe we can get Elgersma on the program at some point soon. That would be nice to get a little hype as we look forward to Bomber season. By the way, speaking of Bomber season, great reaction. We had Tara from the 1930 crew on. If you're thinking about joining us in Regina for the Labor Day Classic on the Huss Bus, get involved. You've got until the 30th of April to snag those last season prices in the early bird. But we may fill. So the 1930 crew at gmail.com, the 1930 crew on any of the socials. Get in touch, get your $100 deposit down, and let's fire it up in Regina on Labor Day weekend. One other thing I'm going to suggest, Remo, while you get this set up, please. I know K&R have been having a major issue with a venue for sort of the year-ender bender that they've done. 2 weeks today is May 1st. And our guy Tristan Rivers Music is playing the A with his GNR and AC/DC cover bands. I think that as WSTers, we should get together at the end of the season anyways, but I'm going to throw it out to K&R, maybe to get everybody together for that. I know it's a little different than before. I mean, it was always neat doing what they did at TCB with the tables, but with the tables and the beers and obviously the pizza. Maybe some folks get together at the Heights beforehand if you want to get together with chatters. But Remo, I mean, I can't imagine a better way to get together with people at the end of the season than rolling into the A on a Friday night and seeing Tristan and the guys rip GNR tunes all night.
Yeah, I'm in for that. So I'll be there singing every song, watching him, Tristan Rivers, as Slash, doing the guitar solos. So we'll have to make up some kind of plan here. So
yeah, mark that down, May 1st. And I do think there are tickets. Maybe we can talk to them and get some before, but we are 100% in. You're all invited. And maybe we'll get K&R to join in and have an even bigger shaker than was previously planned. What's cooking for the marble race?
I need a track here. Is Stormy in here? He's got my list of tracks here. I think I don't even know a good one to do. I was just going to do a classic one. We do have 232 marbles.
Rob Pepper met his wife at the A. Maybe one of you other single WSTers could start a romantic journey for life at a GNR cover band with Tristan Rivers Music. Rippin' Slash. Tico Polly. Pretty sure I'm barred from the A. We'll make a special arrangement, Tico Polly. We'll get you out there for that.
I haven't had time to go through the tracks today.
Well, let's just go to one of the, what about the Champions?
I can just pick one. The one that we always pick isn't, Champions Dynamic Sports. I think that one's good.
Yeah, let's go for that. Actually, that might be a different one. But again, that might be a new one that we've never seen before.
I'm doing that one. We've got 232 marbles in the marble race today. I put you in all caps. I didn't put any extra marbles in or anything.
Yeah, that's okay. We got to get this done.
We got to get this.
Terminator. Yep. Been tossed from the A. There's a lot of A, the Assiniboine Hotel history in the WST chat today. Cracking up. The bouncer lumped me on Portage Avenue from Tico Polly.
Okay. Before we begin,
Best
people
behavior for everyone on May 1st.
Before we begin, people want to know if you got any WrestleMania hot takes. I know you usually do predictions.
Oh, you know what? I do actually. Well, you get that up. Let me just see. I did put together a little. By the way, Coolbet has WrestleMania up right now. I like Randy Orton. I think Pat McAfee's going to be involved. I think they'll get the win over Cody Rhodes. I think and I hope Roman Reigns absolutely smashes CM Punk. Let's see here. This was my parlay. Roman Reigns over CM Punk, Rhea Ripley over Jade Cargill, Trick Williams to beat Sami Zayn, and the Usos and LA Knight versus The Vision and I Show Speed. Those are all sort of chalky favorites, but I put them together for a plus 156 parlay. I know that Penta's now the favorite for the Intercontinental one, but I kind of like that. I think it's Javon Evans is his name. Awesome young guy. What do we got here? He's plus 150. Penta's minus 145. There's some other really good specials they've got. Kevin Owens to make an appearance at WrestleMania is plus 115. The Rock to make an appearance, minus 110. Over or under 4.5 title changes. The over is minus 312. And they've got a couple of other exclusives for new champions as well. Brock Lesnar, Obafemi is going to be awesome. Obafemi's the big favorite. I'm kind of a Lesnar guy. I think at some point Oba will get the win. I don't know whether that happens. I might actually ride with Brock. And then Finn Balor's a massive favorite over Dominic Mysterio, Dirty Dom. And the match I'm looking most forward to, I am down with Seth Rollins and Gunther. I think Gunther wins. But Stephanie Vaquer versus Liv Morgan is definitely going to be must-see TV. Jacob Fatu as well. But definitely most excited for that Cody Rhodes, Randy Orton. Want to see what is up with Pat McAfee, Jelly Roll. 2 nights starting tomorrow. I'm actually going to probably be paying attention on Netflix on my phone while watching the UFC tomorrow night. Let's go Mike Malott in the big one coming up in the main event tomorrow night for Fight Night Winnipeg. All right, enjoy WrestleMania for all of you that observe the squared circle. Let's do some marbles, Remo, and get rolling. Here we go. 232 marbles. This is Champions Dynamic Sports by our guy Dylan 70. If it's a Dylan 70, you know it is a good track. Oh, we lost it.
Let me just double confirm that I have the right one.
Oh, the right list.
The right one. I've done
While
it before.
you do that, how about this for a prop, Remo, in the Cody Rhodes Randy Orton matchup? Total number of crossroads performed by Cody Rhodes. Over 2.5, minus 167. Under 2.5, plus 120.
Oh, that's a good prop.
Never thought I'd see over-unders on number of finishing moves in a match, but God bless our guy J-Rock that puts all the odds together over at Coolbet for this. Got a chance to meet him when we were in Toronto last year for that Jays game. Just had a great time talking to him about how they do all this. All right, this is, I don't know if we've done this one before. I think the other one was Champions Fire Project, but this one's Dylan 70, so it's got to be good. Champions Dynamic Sports. Good luck to all of you. End of the season marble race here on WST. Let's ride. Okay, down onto like domino-shaped platforms, it looks like. Now, everyone's going to come through this and get shot out of the cannon into the next part of it. Jerry Beluda, first out. Who else is in there? I see Leslie Mitchnuck. I see Sean Clark. Ralph's in there. I see Jen Cool. Still waiting. Jen Cool trying to end the drought for EST. Could we see a new champion, an Edmonton champion for the first time? Oh, I just got whacked. Not a strong race for the Huss on this ugly ass Friday outside. Who we got? Oh no, that is not That is an elimination. We got M. Charlet. We got Schnitzy in the mix. Jen Cool's right there. But it looks like Royster and
Derek.
Tango and THP Power on that side. Derek Schmidt coming over on the right side as we get to the drop down into the cylinder. Dylan, just a master of track construction in Marbles on Stream. All right, Tango, Royster, and THP Power. Going into this first note, we got a couple more that have just been added. It is very, very tight. XX Revolution, XX Rev often in the mix. Not sure if they've won recently, but who do we got here in first place? Oh, we've just lost Jude. Ruben. Yes, Ruben is in first place right now. And Royster coming up in second. THP Power, XX Rev. Ruben Herbert is in first place right now. Can anybody catch Ruben? There's still a lot more track left to go, as we can see. And this is the one where you go into the basketball net at the end, Reem.
Yeah, I totally forgot this one. But this is a good one. I had it written down.
This is legit. Ruben Herbert in first place. V-ball coach Mike trying to get into the mix on the other side of things. D2065, Royster, all there right now. Randall Anderson now getting into it. V-ball coach Mike on the right side. Ruben Herbert on the left. XX Rev as well. All right there. But it's Ruben Herbert. Ruben is first through. Will Ruben get shot through the cannon and into the hoop for the win? The answer to that question is a resounding yes. Ruben, congratulations. First ever dub for Ruben. Great track. Good choice today, Remo. Glad we went with that one.
Dylan 70 champions dynamic anything is usually a winner. And hey, there's some guys who could have finished third and fourth, totally missed the hoop. So not a given. People are going off the backboard and missing. So I need some bit of luck there.
Not a given. Well, Ruben, nicely done. You, my friend, can tell all your friends all weekend long you are the marbles champion for WST, at least for a week. Friday afternoons, we finish the show with a marble race. Always fun. Well, that was an interesting show, Reem, and certainly with what happened at the end with hearing from Hellebuyck, it's going to make Sunday Live, 9 a.m. with Connor and Liss, and Monday's show that much more interesting, especially considering we're going to hear from both head coach Scott Arniel and general manager Kevin Cheveldayoff on the season. But I have a feeling what we heard from their three-time Vezina Trophy winner will be very much top of the agenda.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to breaking all this down and what we're going to hear, if anything notable, from the GM and head coach tomorrow on what they're going to say about this season that, really second worst in Jets 2.0 history, not up to the standard.
That's
they had
incredible.
Set last year. Isn't that unbelievable?
Like 2011-12, that team, 13
more points. Now it's all relative, and the league is different in terms of the scoring, but still, I think this team would probably beat that team, but just look at where they finished. Yeah, 82 points, less than 84. That's your analytics right there, and worse team. So it wasn't great. I think it just speaks to where this team is and how far they need to go to get back to where they want to be.
You know what? One more thing before we go. Pull up Tankathon. Let's see how many times we have to hit it before we finish in number 1 or number 2 pick.
Usually you're wanting to get out of here on a Friday, but
I know, but I think that now we're into lottery season. It's only 2.5 weeks before the lottery. We're going to be doing a special lottery stream on WST
Here,
when this all happens.
People want the
Oh yeah, of course. We forgot about that. Yeah, go down there. T. Will, MB hockey expert, top 10. Nicely done. There's Ralph, Velveeta, Grown, Turd Ferguson, and Frosty all in the top 10. Kenny's water bottle, top 25. Not bad. There's Running Man. Derminator. Shout out to the Chuds gang. They're fired up for spring to eventually get here. Head up to Gimli, say hi to the Derminator and the crew there. 106 actually made it. And then this is everybody else. Probably many of you got off the board. I took care of things early and got bounced about 5 seconds into the race. So it was not one of my better ones. You can see fifth last. Only Darcy, Keith, Johnny, Win City Bender, and Comet for the win. Popped out earlier than me. All right. Okay, can we just do, let's do a couple sims here on the way out. I want a good vibe. I want to finish with seeing the Jets in the 1 or 2 pick, and that will send us off. No, Rangers in Chicago. Let's see there. We moved down to 8. San Jose. We moved down to 8. San Jose would be tough.
5.
Vancouver and Toronto. Nope.
6.
Nashville. Yikes. Don't like that. We moved down to 9 in that one. 8.
8. Oh, New Jersey went up. Wow.
New Jersey went all the way up to the 2nd spot.
9.
Vancouver, Florida.
10.
Technically, by the numbers, we should get 1 or 2 within about 8 or 9.
11.
Leafs win it. That's not happening. Or maybe it will. Who knows? Canucks.
13. Well, St. Louis.
St. Louis. Ugh. Don't want to see that. That also pushes the Jets back to 8th.
Yeah.
We don't move. What happened to your mouse?
As Ruben Herbal wants to know how to get his hoodie. So
Ruben, send us an email. We'll see if we've got your size in. Winnipeg Sports Talk at gmail.com. Sorry, I thought I mentioned that already. Okay, there's Rangers. We're in a bit of a...
Oh, there we go.
There we go. There we go.
Oh.
Positive vibes only. Jets in Seattle. Leafs move down to 7. Boston, you're on the clock at 7. Wouldn't that be nice? Dare to dream, everyone. We'll find out on the 5th of May. All right, well, listen, enjoy the weekend, everyone. Enjoy the fights for any of you that are going to be down at UFC. I'm fired up. It should be fun. We'll talk about that experience on Monday's show, but all down to the off season for the Winnipeg Jets. We'll hear from Chevy and Arnie on Monday. And, we'll also get into a little Taylor Elgersma talk as well. I'm going to have to the end of the show, head over to the Bomber site and check that out. And hopefully we'll be able to talk to the newest member of the Bombers at some point soon. Folks, thanks again to all of our guests today. Kevin Sawyer, Brandon Rewucki, Connor Rabchak, Jake Bolin Moss. Great stuff by Remis getting all that audio for us, especially Helly at the end of the show. Appreciate everybody's patience for the marble race today. We had to get the Hellebuyck in there if it was available. And a huge thanks to all of our sponsors that make WST happen each and every day. Have a great weekend. For Michael Remis, I'm Andrew Paterson. Don't forget, Sunday Live with Connor and Liz, 9 a.m. on Sunday, and we're back 1 p.m. live on YouTube Monday afternoon here on Winnipeg Sports Talk.
Oh my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.